call to order the Siloam Springs Board of Directors meeting for February 4th, 2025. Roll call.
Blair.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Wiles.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Rissler.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Thank you. If you would please stand with me at this time as Director Blair will lead us in a word of prayer, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, thank you for this another day, the community we live in, and all our many blessings. Thank you for all the veterans, and especially those who are here tonight, and all they have given to make our country safe. Guide us in our decisions that we may do your will tonight and in every day. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, we will move into our public input. At this time, I would ask if there is anyone here that would like to address the board on an item that is not on our regularly scheduled agenda. And if you would, please state your name, address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Pat Broyles, B-R-O-Y-L-E-S. My mailing address is 17267 U.S. Highway 412, Kansas, Oklahoma. I am the commander of the local Disabled American Veterans chapter here in Siloam Springs. Scuttlebutt, and that's military for unsubstantiated rumors, has it that you guys will be contemplating banning fireworks. I've been talking to other veterans the last 2 weeks who have been diagnosed by the Veterans Administration as having post-traumatic stress disorder. And we've talked about fireworks amongst each other and all that kind of stuff. And the consensus is that we do what we fought for was for the traditions of America. And one of those great traditions is lighting fireworks. And we do not want the veterans used as an excuse to ban fireworks. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Is there anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and Directors. It's good to see you this evening. I'm here on behalf of the
would you bring
Siloam
your mic-
Springs.
bring your
This
mic
is
down?
better.
Thank you.
Oh, you're telling me to talk into my mic?
I am.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Siloam Springs Museum. We'd like to invite you and the community out for a presentation called Northwest Arkansas and the Civil War, remembering the Battle of Pea Ridge. That battle it does have some significant connections to our community, and we're so close to it that we want to go ahead and kind of share that with the public. So we're going to have an exploration of the battle. We have some Civil War artifacts that will be on display, and we will have Rick Parker, who will be our local historian, that if you've been around town for a while, you've probably heard of him. And we're excited to have him come and talk about the battle was fought on March 7th and 8th. But he is going to share with us some incidents that happened March 6th that really led into that a little bit. So it's going to be quite fascinating to hear him talk about that. This is going to be held on Saturday, March 15th, 2025, 10:30 to 1. So for more information, please go to SiloamSpringsMuseum.com/events, and there's some information there. And we would like to thank you that we can offer these kind of free events thanks to donations from the community. And Simmons Foods has been a great supporter of us the last few years, and this allows us to do that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. Let me move this up a little bit.
Thank you.
I hope everybody's doing good this evening. My name's Greg Gass, 24050 East 570 Road, Colcord, Oklahoma. And I know part of the board, part of others I don't. I have had the honor of being elected the commander of Levi Douthit Post 1674 Veterans of Foreign Wars. And when the last board meeting happened, there was some things that were said at the end of it, and fireworks is one of our biggest fundraisers. And looking at the overall fireworks sales that this city has, a majority of the people that sell fireworks are 501Cs, nonprofits. That community, or that money stays in this community when it goes to, whether it's us or whether it goes to others. I would like to urge the board to keep the ability to sell fireworks within the city. It is a huge thing. Not only does the sales tax stay here, but also all the youth groups that raise money for their trips, churches, veterans, and others. It's something that I highly encourage. And with that, I also want to reiterate, we don't want veterans to be used as an excuse not to sell fireworks. And I am a combat vet, I am a Marine, and I absolutely love setting off my fireworks. And so that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
can I ask him a question?
yes.
Well, since they're
Really,
here,
there's no, there's
since the
really-
group is here, I'd
Yeah.
kind of like to know, what's the post's opinion on having fireworks on New Year's and having fireworks on 4th of July?
Well, we like to blow stuff up, so. We like fireworks. I understand that there's always part of my career, I was law enforcement, and I was a canine handler for 9 years. I understand that a lot of dogs have issues with the fireworks. However, that is something that can be trained, in the majority of them, so that they don't have issues with it. It just takes the time to do it. But yes, we love our fireworks. As to an official opinion on New Year's Eve, I really don't have one. 4th of July is the biggest thing for us, at least for the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Anybody else? All right.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Is that good? All right, hey y'all, I'm Corey Irwin with the Siloam Springs Golf Club. Do you want my address or the club's? Does it matter?
Club is fine.
Thank you.
Since
801
you're representing.
North Country Club Road, Siloam Springs. I just wanted to come and say first, thanks. I love this little opportunity to give a little update, so thanks for that. At the course, I just wanted to let everyone kind of know where we're at and what we're doing. And Maxim Golf Solutions has been expanding recently and trying, kind of going out in some new things, trying to just really working on making everything better for our courses and our members and our cities and communities. One of those changes is we have hired a new COO, Trey Herman. He's from Dubs Dread Golf Course in Kansas City. He's going to come down soon. You guys can all meet him. You'll really like him. Great guy. Really good at what he does, and I'm really impressed so far with everything he's bringing to the table for us. Another change is, this is a personal one, and I'm super excited about it. I had the chance this year to hire an assistant and a clubhouse manager, and I hired Jacob Gilbert. I don't know, this Gilbert family, I don't even know y'all, but no, just joking. I love Jacob. We had lots of different applicants and people, and they had great resumes, but Jacob has worked for me now for over a year, and he is such a hard worker, has a great business mind. He's already been such a huge help to me personally, just giving me more time to do the things that I need to do instead of always being the person gassing up carts and washing them and taking care of all the small things. So I so appreciate him and all he's doing. That's another change. We have a new website coming out. It'll be released March 1st. It's really nice. I think you guys will all like it. It's a lot more user-friendly. It's prettier, if nothing else, just to be real honest. It's real pretty. It's going to be great. People can go in and make their tea times through the website. You're going to get a better price that way, just so you know. Little tip for you. We're real excited for that. We are working on our schedules for this coming calendar year. I gave you guys all of our tournament schedules. We're so excited for those. Our first tournament for the year is going to be a Shamrock Shamble, March 16th, I believe it is, for St. Patrick's Day. So we hope to see all y'all out there. Judy, I don't think I've seen you since, we opened up at the green. So, I mean, come on, Judy.
I did hit a golf ball,
Come
right?
open that one up for us. We're excited for that. Another thing this year we're going to have is, the last time we had one of these, I think my grandma, my great-grandma, my aunts were involved, but which is a long time ago. Anyways, we're going to start another ladies' league during the weekdays. I am super excited about that. So again, all y'all ladies, come be part of our league. We're really excited for it. We're also getting ready to carry a lot more merchandise in our shop. So anything you're looking for, we will have it. If you need socks, you need apparel, you need golf balls, tees, whatever it's going to be, we're going to have it for you guys. So come out. This was my Spend Your Green in Siloam Springs, if anybody remembers that. But great little slogan, right? Anywho, y'all come out, see us, come say hey, come meet Jacob if you want, or just come say hey to me even. Come play some golf. We'd love to have you. Am I under my 3 minutes? Because this is impressive.
Your 3 minutes is up.
Dang. I
Sorry.
did pretty close though, wasn't I?
You did very
Dang.
good.
Thanks. I was
Thank
trying.
you. You did good. Thank you. Is there anyone else? So this is time for public input that's not on the agenda. So if there is no one else, is there anyone here that would like to address the board on an item that is on our consent agenda? Yes, sir.
The item that I'm addressing this evening is the Copperleaf agenda item.
Okay, so we will
that-
have public input whenever we get to that item.
Oh, you got to wait for that? Okay.
Yes, sir, please. That's fine, thank you. Is there anyone else? And on the consent agenda? All right, there is no one, so we will move into our presentations. I think, Travis, that is your presentation, so you have the floor, sir.
All right, good evening, Board, Mayor, Travis Cheney, Parks and Recreation Manager. This evening, I've got the opportunity to provide y'all with a very big picture view of what's going on with Parks and Recreation currently, and we're going to touch on 4 main topics this evening. First, we're going to review some of the 2040 Comprehensive Plan Parks and Recreation goals and some previous board goals related to Parks and Rec, give you an update on where we are with those goals. And then sort of a 35,000-foot view of big picture parks capital needs and upcoming needs that will be need to be considered at some point soon. And then also we'll be presenting the results of the Parks Priorities Survey that this board asked us to implement last year. And then based on the results of that survey, we'll be sharing some recommendation from our Parks Advisory Board on action plan and action steps related to the results of that survey. With that being said, I do have a few members of our Parks Advisory Board here this evening that are going to participate in this presentation. And as you all know, the Parks Advisory Board is a 9-person body appointed by this board. I think of them as kind of the eyes and ears of staff. So we meet every month. They come and do just what the title sounds like, advise staff on both things big and small related to parks. So we talk a lot about long-range plans, and also they tell me when there's a light out on the trail or on the pickleball courts. But we have 2 folks from that Parks Advisory Board, citizens, who wanted to share briefly regarding parks tonight. And first, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Heathcote, who's one of our Parks Advisory Board members. Come on up, Jennifer. She has a few things to share briefly.
Yeah. I bet I have to do this, huh? Okay. Like Travis said, my name is Jennifer Heathcote. I have lived in Siloam for about 12 years now. And for the past few years, I've gotten to serve on the Parks Advisory Board, which has been a lot of fun. A bit more like, I won't say work than I thought it would be, but there's a lot that we do, and there's a lot of consideration that we put into the time that we spend together and how we approach that time together. One of the things that we as a board have really talked about for a long time, something that I think that survey is going to touch on a bit, is our need for a parks master plan. We've been talking about it for at least a year or more. And what we mean by parks master plan is something that looks at all of our park systems as a whole, our trails, our sports facilities, our current pool, and then our playgrounds and pretty much anything else that our Parks and Recreation oversee. And what we want out of a master plan is not just fixing things as they break or doing small projects as the money becomes available, but really looking at a whole of how our parks can best serve our community. And personally, when I thought through this, 3 words came to mind: restore, renovate, and innovate. One of the best features of Siloam is the fact that we have this historic creek that runs through the middle of our town. It's what makes us unique, it's what makes us beautiful. And we have these really neat features, but some of them have fallen into a lot of disrepair. Our, not fountain, what's the word I'm looking for? Our spring, well, you can't see it anymore. You can't get to it anymore. That beautiful, we've got old historic pictures of where people could walk down and view the spring. We've lost that. We need to bring that back. We need to restore some of those features. Oh, sorry, you look like you're going to say something. Okay.
No.
Okay. We need to restore some of those features that make us think of all the history, the rich history that Siloam has. But with that also comes some of the fixing of the infrastructure, like our bluff area. That needs to be fixed before it becomes a bigger problem. So that moves on to restore, renovate. Our park, Bob Henry Park, is the park. When I first moved to Siloam, it was where I took my 1-year-old. It's where I made my first friend. It is when parents meet up with each other and they say, we're going to go to the park, it's Bob Henry. And right now, Bob Henry is probably about 20 years behind where it needs to be as far as the facilities that we offer to our community and just the look of it. It doesn't match the feel of our town. That goes back to the need for a master plan. We need to see that all of our parks fit with each other. That includes our pool, which again is about maybe 30 years behind where it needs to be to serve the needs of our community. Something that Travis brought up to our board is that we are actually starting to lose revenue from that pool because people are choosing to go elsewhere. It became so crowded for a while that people just chose to leave. People chose to invest their money, their pool funds, into a different town instead of ours. And we want to bring them back. We want to provide our growing community with the places and the facilities that they need. So that leads me to innovation. We need to be forward thinking. We all know that Siloam is growing, that we're changing, and with that growth and change comes different needs for our community. One of the big ones that we see is the need for a rec center. I have 4 kids who all play different sports. I take them to basketball, football, baseball, soccer, and cheer. And it has become overwhelmingly apparent to me as a parent that we do not have the facilities to house even practices for all of the sports that our town offers. We are hoping that the implementation of a rec center, the building of a rec center, would give us more practice facilities, not just for our organized sports, but places for our community to gather, places for our community to stay healthy, potentially even serve our high school, our hospital. There's a lot of opportunity when it comes to our rec center. So all of that goes back to, we need a master plan. It's great to invest in all these little things along the way, but we have to have that bigger vision, or it's not gonna all work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'd also like to introduce Mr. Stanley Church, who many of y'all know, who's been serving on our Parks Advisory Board for quite a number of years now. And Stanley has a couple of words to share.
A couple, nothing.
So I will ask you, Stanley, we're trying to keep all this public input to just a little over 3 minutes or
It'll
so,
be a-
so
it'll be a
I
few.
understand.
It'll be a few. Thank you for the
you.
privilege to present this. I'm more of the, I'll give the heartfelt of this presentation because I've been in Siloam since '72, and my parents have been here for generations back. In fact, my parents' first place that they lived in was an apartment overlooking Twin Springs. So I'm personally attached to that. And in the recent election, I heard comments about Siloam Springs DNA. And I started thinking about that. And Siloam's DNA started before Siloam was a town. It was because people came to the springs here for healing. And they still come here now. I was walking through the parks just a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago now, and I saw a veteran was obviously dealing with PTSD, and he had his service dog with him, and as I walked towards him to thank him for his service, I saw him start closing out. And I realized he needed a quiet place he could comfortably go for healing. And whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, we need a place for that. And Siloam's been like that. It's a place to heal. But the thing that concerns me is the icons along the creek and along our springs are being lost through neglect. The spring she alluded to is in such disrepair they've been barred off. And I've seen some other elements of the park that has been neglected and then condemned and then torn out. I remember the swinging bridge down by the springs, down by the tennis courts. First they were in disrepair and then they just weren't safe to use, and then it was taken out and no one knows where they're at. I've actually got a copy of a picture of a postcard that Siloam Springs boasted about Siloam Springs. Did you know there was another bridge by the fountain at Twin Springs Park? The flood came in, took it out, and was never replaced. It's just through disrepair and failure to follow up on maintenance, they go away. And we're losing our draw to the healing of Siloam Springs. And so just yesterday, we went to Little Rock to honor the civic groups that are serving our community and for a place for healing. I think that the city government needs to be a contributor to that healing too. I think we need to take the funds that's already been appropriated for those parks, and before the cost goes up even more, we need to repair those places. Otherwise, it's going to be a waste of money. But that's basically what I've got. I love Siloam. It's the most beautiful town I know of. I love taking pictures, walking through the park. I love to see people walk through the park and for healing. That's why Rotary put in a healing garden. We're a place, we're a city where people can come for healing, and the parks are the best place to do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you, Stanley. So those are just a couple of our 9 Parks Advisory Board members, all committed members of the community who come and give input every month on how to take care and improve our parks. And one of the things that we like to say is our parks are the character of our community. This is just the first page of a Google Images search of Siloam Springs, and everything that's highlighted in yellow, just most of the pictures, are pictures of our park system, which for us is just a good reminder that when you think about Siloam Springs, when people think about the kind of emotional aspect that connects them, it's these public shared spaces that we all spend time in that are the character of Siloam Springs. When we're trying to attract tourism, when Discover Siloam makes a post about what's going on in Siloam, all the pictures you see are our parks where people can come and enjoy. I'll give an example. Cabot, Arkansas, which is a town just a little bit bigger than us, just recently built a rec center, sports complex. And as soon as that was approved by the board, 2 hotels came in very close to where that was going to be. These are kind of real-world economic impacts for the community when the community chooses to invest in parks and shared public spaces. Here's a photo y'all have probably seen before, the postcard advertising Twin Springs, and then what Twin Springs looks like today. But the good thing is we've got a lot of really great plans, particularly in the 2040 comp plan that this board approved in 2022 related to parks. And just as a reminder, there were 4 really good ones I wanted to share. Of course, there's amend the development code to require the dedication of parkland and trails and new subdivisions. There's develop a parks, recreation, and open space master plan to advance the community's rec goals and opportunities. There's also ensure that recreational facilities are well maintained and included in routine capital improvements. And then the last one, plan for sports facilities for youth and active adults, either within a parks master plan or as an interim measure. The community consistently expressed a desire for amenities such as pickleball courts, new and improved ball fields, or an indoor rec community center similar to the Jones Center in Springdale. So those are some of our big picture goals that all have really achievable metrics to them. The board had set a goal to develop a citywide plan for a rec center, which staff brought in 2023. The price for the design was a concern for some individuals. The board asked staff to go and do a parks priorities survey to kind of gauge the community's temperature on lots of parks and recreation related questions. And so in April of last year, staff, with the advice of the Parks Advisory Board Committee, implemented this parks priorities survey. We posted physical signs in every park that had a QR code. So when you're in the park, thinking about the park, you could take the survey while you're thinking about it. And then for a month, every week, we posted online on the city website, on Facebook pages, encouraging folks to participate in the survey. We had over 1,100 responses. And here are some of the results. And they're kind of what you would expect. You might be able to see it in your packet. It's a little small on the screen. But one of our first questions was, which parks do you visit the most? Of course, Bob Henry Park was far and away the most attended park with about 127,000 visits per year. City Lake Park was number 2. Our downtown historic parks were number 3. We asked folks, okay, when you go to the parks, what are you even trying to do there? What takes you to our parks? Number 1 was just walking or jogging, which is, we see that as a recreational trend nationally. The number 1 activity that people in the United States participate in is going for a walk. And we have plenty of places to do that. Taking a child to the playground was number 2, and then separated out as a distinct question because it involves other aspects of our downtown, was going on a stroll through the downtown parks. Those were the top 3 reasons people went to parks in Siloam Springs. And then we asked the question, what do you believe should be the highest priorities for the city when you invest in parks? Number 1 and number 2 were almost tied for first place. Number 1 was renovate Bob Henry Park, and almost indistinguishable from that was new splash pad. Number 3 was a rec center. Number 4 was restore historic parks in Sager Creek. Then you had upgrades to City Lake Park, renovate the Family Aquatic Center, improve ADA accessibility, improve pedaling and cycling connections, build more parks on the south side of town, and renovate our athletic complexes. But, you know, the graph there does show 3 kind of clear front runners, which is renovate Bob Henry, build a new splash pad, build a rec center. And then we also just had a space for written response. I mean, tell us something that you want different in our parks. And we went through and kind of categorized those written responses by general category. And they turned out a little bit differently. It kind of shows you the people who are the most passionate, probably, because they wanted to write something in. Number one was increased bike and pedestrian connectivity, ADA access, and better play equipment were our top three in the written response category. And so our Parks Advisory Board has reviewed the responses, the results of this survey, talked in depth about what our long-term capital needs are going to be. We wanted to share a few upcoming capital needs on some of our biggest parks. We have, of course, the Family Aquatic Center, which is now 30 years old, which is hard to believe. We've noticed over the past couple of years, our visits are on a downward trend. It was built 30 years ago for a town of 10,000. We're approaching 20 right now. Our pool and Prairie Grove's pool were built almost identically by the same person at the same time. Just to give you a sense of different sizes of towns, Prairie Grove's still kind of sized properly for their pool. We've outgrown ours. We haven't had really any major renovations in 30 years. And folks are looking at Gentry, Decatur, going elsewhere for their aquatics. The opinion of the Parks Advisory Board is if we are able to invest in the FAC, Family Aquatic Center, or new aquatic facilities and attract folks back into town, that's the way you're going to be able to see revenues increase at the FAC. We have the Lazy Boy and Butts baseball and softball complexes, also over 30 years old, 27,000 visits in 2023. There are some difficulties with this baseball complex, as some of y'all have been here a long time know. It's built in a floodplain, so it goes underwater every few years. It also limits the kind of development that we can do there in the future. Drainage is a perennial issue. And the city has recently, in the past 2 years, taken over maintenance of the baseball side, working to improve the infields there. But the big picture is there haven't been any major upgrades in 30 years, and it's really showing its age. When cities' parks and rec departments are a revenue generator for that community, it's typically through sports tourism, meaning folks come from out of town to play these big tournaments, either at baseball complexes, soccer complexes, indoor complexes. Right now, Siloam is missing that. And a good example is that picture in the top left-hand corner. That used to be a restroom. Years ago, I think the Parks Department tore down to build another one, tore it down, and then realized, actually, we're in a floodplain. We can't rebuild it now. And so it's just sort of a sitting slab there, which just goes to show whatever we do at Lazy Boy, you have to be creative. Building brand new buildings may be out of the question. Renovating what we have, turf infields, are totally within reach. But we're also getting to a point where our lights, we can't find replacements for our old lights anymore. So there's a lot at Lazy Boy and Butts that are going to need addressed in the near future. Sager Creek Soccer Complex is now about 10 years old. It's our most attended sports complex, so we had 48,000 visits in 2023. And we do, thankfully, have probably the best playing surface of almost any recreational field in the region. People rave about how good the playing surface is there, and that's a testament to our parks maintenance staff. But we also don't have any restrooms out there, so folks are using porta potties. There are no lights, so games have to stop when it's dark. And soccer is a spring and fall sport when the light hours are lower. And then for any of y'all that have been out there recently, parking's always an issue. So folks are parking on the street by the golf course, as Corey knows. So there are all kinds of opportunities for improvements at Sager Creek Soccer Complex. And then, of course, as Jennifer mentioned and as our survey showed, Bob Henry Park was the #1 requested improvement in parks in the city. 127,000 visits in 2023, and that's an upward trend. Our play equipment is from the 1990s. Every year we're having to now pull off elements that we cannot find anymore when they break. We had a certified playground safety inspector come out 2 weeks ago and inspect all of our slides. We removed one of them on the toddler playground, and he said, you may have 3 years left before it becomes a safety hazard and they all need to be pulled. So Bob Henry Park is a high priority. Y'all can see some of the infrastructure there. The good thing about Bob Henry is that it's fairly limited in size, and so what people want and what you can do there are almost answered for you. A very simple idea that's been proposed is a splash pad at Bob Henry, improved playground for toddlers, improved playground for older kids, improved restrooms, new sidewalks. Fencing in the basketball courts would be a very simple thing to keep kids from chasing balls into the street. Moving into phase 2 of a restoration at the skate park. There are only 2 toilets in the whole park, and they're at one far end. People always request restrooms at the other end of the park. Some work on the Benton Street Road that's part of the Master Streets Plan would really be appropriate here. It's as y'all know, it's a big pedestrian and bike connection from John Brown, the west side of town, through town. I believe the Master Streets Plan calls out a separated bike lane here. And then, of course, fixing the sidewalks and connecting the Dogwood Springs Trail to John Brown. Apart from Bob Henry, the board also made a 2023-2024 plan to improve the water quality of Sager Creek and recognize its economic and quality of life potential. And the board funded in 2023 engineering for repairing a bluff overhang on Sager Creek. Most of y'all were here at that time. You remember engineering wrapped up at the end of last year, so we have 100% construction documents now. But that plan did not include any improvements to Twin Springs. Here's what Twin Springs looks like today. But as many of y'all know, this has been something that's come up over the past 20 years. 2009, the city funded the Sager Creek Action Plan. The architect who did that study said, hey, a high priority is to renovate Twin Springs. They scoped out the price to do it in 2009. It didn't make it in the budget. In 2014, we did the Downtown Connectivity Master Plan. A big highlight of that was restore the natural springs. In 2015, the city passed a 3/8 cents quality of life sales tax that sunsets in 2026. When that went to the board for approval, staff included a list of projects that could be done with that 3/8 cent quality of life sales tax. Twin Springs Parks upgrades were in there, Lover's Lane improvements. All these things were proposed in 2015 for use of these quality of life funds that we still have. 2021, the Sager Creek Advisory Committee reviewed all the past studies that have been done on Sager Creek, recommended we need to rehabilitate the upper spring or Twin Springs. So we do have, this is an older slide, but we do have 100% design complete for the bluff overhang repair and repair to the dam currently. We would recommend, the Parks Advisory Board would recommend funding construction of these repairs in 2025. And after speaking with the city administrator, it might be possible to use revenue from the sale of Lake Francis property to fund those repairs. The Parks Advisory Board would also recommend, because that project ends at Twin Springs, go ahead and do Twin Springs restoration at the same time. We would have to go back for design of that project separately. The 2009 cost estimate was somewhere around $150,000. So just ballparking $250,000, but that is without having gone out for design. But I think it would be safe to estimate total project costs for Twin Springs bluff overhang could be somewhere around $1 million.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, Travis.
I think it would be safe to say it could easily be somewhere around $1 million, just for the bluff overhang and Twin Springs restoration. That doesn't include anything else along Sager Creek. And so as the Parks Advisory Board has talked and planned, They wanted to bring 3 recommendations to this board. Of course, these aren't things we'll be voting on tonight. These would just be things to consider. 3 short-term proposed budget amendments for 2025. One would be fund the Sager Creek structural work from the sale of the Lake Francis property. That's the bluff overhang. Fund the Twin Springs renovation through the quality of life funds that were proposed in 2016 when that was voted on. And then fund a parks master plan with a focus on Bob Henry Park improvements, splash pad, and rec center design through quality of life funds. And then hopefully that master plan could be finished in time as that 3/8 sales tax starts to sunset, and the public could decide whether they'd want to go out for a bond issue to fund some large-scale improvements. But those are the recommendations of the Parks Advisory Board, a big picture overview of what's going on in parks. Any questions?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Betsy.
have you looked into grants to cover any of these things?
Every project that we look into, we definitely look at grants for.
So there aren't any for any of these things?
Well, we did get an $80,000 grant for Twin Springs, but typically a grant, $80,000 of like $1 million project doesn't get you that far. But yeah, for every project, we're definitely always looking for grants.
Mayor,
Yes.
when you were talking about the 3/8 sales tax extension for the bond, would that include just parks programs, or would that include, because we have wastewater needs, we
Sure.
have police department needs?
That would be a question that would not be in my wheelhouse. It'd be a much further down the road discussion of how the
That's in
city would want to.
2026, and so when are you expecting us to vote on these?
I would expect, the things that we're proposing here are just 2025 projects. And so we would probably bring them throughout the year if the board was interested in seeing them.
And to fund Parks Master Plan, is that the same plan, same price tag that you were providing before?
Very likely, yes.
And can you say what that price tag was?
It was around $260,000. We would probably be, we'd have to go back and look at the scope again. This was 2023, I think, the last time. But if the board was interested, we could revisit that and bring a new scope to the board for approval.
Okay. Alan, do you know on the 3/8 sales tax? Because I know we have the wastewater, that's a big issue, and that's a statewide issue. But it's a big issue we're going to have to deal with. We can't ignore it. And the police department, there's a great need there too, and safety is a priority. So when we go to make these decisions, understanding what sales tax we're going to have in the future, because people don't want more taxes. The idea is to get rid of taxes. What would that include?
Director, that's something we're going to look at to see if we want to continue this. Do we want to increase it from 3/8? Do we want to take it back to the voters? That's a workshop I'm planning in the near future to talk about this. Also talk about different projects with the board, especially how to fund the HeadWorks program or the Head Starts project. We're looking at grants and looking at different things, but right now we're just looking at those revenue streams because that could have a $20 to $30 million price tag, which is a must.
Right. So that's what I would like to see before I make a decision on the Fund Parks Master Plan, because we do have some major, your wastewater, it's not an option. You have to deal with it. There's wants and there's needs, and your wastewater is a need. And it's going to be a big price tag. And
Madam
so.
Mayor? Madam Mayor?
Just a minute, David. Are you through? Yes? Yes, David.
Travis, thank you so much for
Yes, sir.
bringing this. I think you had this ready before the end of last year, did you not?
Yes, sir.
And I really wished we had have seen it and it hadn't been pushed off because I think we probably, as a board, would have wanted to adjust the budget somewhat to put some of these things in there because this is important and it's not stuff that can be put off. You've brought it up tonight. The Parks Board has brought it up that we are where we are because of things that have been pushed off, because of neglect, because of finding other things for money, and, well, parks can take a backseat. And I don't believe that we can easily find $30 to $50 million for a rec center, but we can find money to do a master parks plan. I think that's priority. You got to do that. But you've also got to do these things that we can access now. People say downtown's the heart of Siloam. No, Sager Creek is the heart of Siloam Springs, and we have neglected it and let it go. And it goes way beyond downtown where it begins, and it goes way past downtown to have people be able to walk the trails out past JBU and enjoy the Sager Creek. But definitely renovating Bob Henry Park is something that we can jump on quickly. And renovating the Family Aquatic Center. I mean, I don't know if I heard right when the young lady was saying that the Family Aquatic Center, I think she said it's 30 years behind. It's 30 years old. So I was here when it was built, and we have been way behind the 8 ball on the Family Aquatic Center for quite some time, and not enough money has been allocated to innovate it, update it, and just to compete. We were the trendsetter when we built it. All the other cities' citizens were coming here, but they, I think, have done a good job of keeping up on their updating of their aquatic center, and we have not. And I know it's been problems where you have problems with the pool and you have problems with just keeping it just operating, you know, the water problem, just things like that. But we've got to bite the bullet and do it. The thing I was surprised on the Sager Creek Soccer Complex, I remember it cost $1 million. And I have griped lately to our city administrator why we don't have restrooms, because I hate seeing porta potties, that we should have built restrooms a long time ago, but I didn't realize there were no lights. And I questioned, where did the money go for $1 million that we didn't even build lights? It is a great soccer field overall. I mean, you're right. It's second to none in terms of flatness and the use. But we need to have the conveniences that are normal for a sport, because a lot of people come from out of town to use that, and we need to look normal with bathrooms and lights. We do. And it's kind of odd that they never got built in the first place, but we need to put that as a priority as well. It's not a park, but it is part of parks, and it's something that brings in a tremendous amount of people. I think the Bob Henry Park has been something that has been slowly added to since it came into being from the 70s. And a lot of the land as you go westward down Benton Street has come about because of the donation from Bob and Jeannie Feltz and their family. And as it gets further and further, we find more things like the dog park and the sand volleyball court and things like that. There is that bridge that I brought up to you that just to the south needs cleaned up of the creek, because it's just kind of unsightly. And it's just a matter of dead trees and stuff from flooding that gets gathered up on that little island. So stuff like that. Those are things that we can do that are not going to cost $5 million, but we can do those kind of things. And the splash pad and update. I mean, we got to keep that little kid equipment up to date, so for safety reasons, if nothing else. And so I think these are all things that once you get a master plan going, we can quickly, maybe not even wait for a master plan to do things like that, but they're things that are priority. We've got to do these things. So I appreciate you bringing this and your attention to it.
Thank you.
And the Parks Advisory Board too.
And yeah, Bob Henry is one that could easily be done as a standalone. But yeah, any other questions?
Mayor?
Yes, Mindy.
I agree, I concur with a lot of what David said. I did know there were no lights out of the soccer field, and it seems like that has come up before, and it was pretty costly, which I think is one reason why it's been put off. I did not know there were not bathrooms there, and I completely agree that we need restrooms at the soccer field if there's money somewhere to be had to do restrooms. Thank you for your presentation, and for those of you from the Parks and Recreation Committee for sharing more of your heart and your input about it. I really like what Jennifer said about restore, renovate, and innovate. And those goals that you've come up with, or the budget amendments, I think do align with that and at least get us started toward all those things that you mentioned. Definitely am in support of a master plan, and very happy, not just because it's my ward, but because I do drive down Benton Street so often and see how well Bob Henry Park is used. So I'm very excited about that being sort of one of your priorities. But I did have a question about that. So you said that there are 127,000 visits, or there were in 2023. I'm assuming that does not include the Dogwood Festival.
It probably does. When we aggregate, you know, whatever's happening over the entire year,
Okay.
it would likely include the folks on that day that come down into Bob Henry.
Okay, well, and that in itself, I mean, the fact that we host this huge festival every year is a good reason to really do what we can to spruce up that park area. That would be a great place for another splash pad, and speaking of water, I completely agree. I remember 30 years ago when that pool was built, how excited people were. I mean, it was the place to be.
And it didn't really have a splash pad per se.
No, we
Yeah.
didn't at the time, but we had the Mickey Mouse baby
Yep,
pool.
yep.
Mickey Mouse Your Baby Pool.
Yep.
Very cool place to be. It'd be nice if that could be a place that people really want to go again, you know?
No,
So-
no place had a water slide. That's what was big.
No, yeah.
That was
And
what was
and it's
huge.
still, we've got a good place upon which we can build.
Yeah, as a person who spends a lot of time operating the pool, and anybody that's come out and look at it, you know, as I say, it's got good bones.
Yeah.
It was well built when it was built.
Like that
Alan?
parking lot.
David?
That crumbling. We got to do something on that.
Madam Mayor, again, thank you, Travis, for, you know, presenting this. Travis is not shy when it comes to budget requests, I promise you. When we're there, he's always swinging, trying, and I'm a big proponent of Park and Rec. But again, when we're looking into the budget, I agree, and I've got to cut $3 million. You know, I tell Travis, to get to budget. I mean, and we're on a 3% budget this year because, again, we don't know what the economy was going to do at that time. So my recommendation was, Travis, give me your priorities. That's what we will budget. And I know a lot of this is priorities. And as we go, do this presentation, because I know the board supports these types of things. And then I'm not big on going back and asking for more money later, but those are, you know, amendments that we will come back and do as we see what the economy is doing, because I know we have some big ticket items that we have issues right now. Streets, you know, our wastewater plant, there's a lot of things going on. So we do go that, and we go in priorities. So as we go, we'll look at the budget, see how we're doing. But again, if that's what the board wants to do, we do have reserves that we can look at and get some of this done. But again, I appreciate Travis, and I've given him, I want him to talk to the board about getting this master street plan. There's just a lot that we can be doing, a lot of revenue that we could generate by updating a lot of our facilities with tournaments and different things like that. And again, Travis and I agree that's something I would like to bring back to the board, to at least fund the study to see where we are with a Park and Rec Center, because we don't know what we need. We don't know if it's 10 million, 20 million, 30, 40, until we get that done.
You said master street plan, you meant
Sorry,
master park plan. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Got streets on my brain,
I mean, we
sir.
need both, but, you know,
Need both, yes,
the
sir.
update of the
And I
street plan, but
appreciate the
this,
board, so. I
this
just wanted
parks
to
is
get a quick
definitely
update.
needed.
Very good. Thank you very much, Travis. And thank you, Jennifer and Stanley. We
Madam
appreciate
Mayor.
y'all being here. Yes,
And
Brad?
I was hoping I could just get a real quick one in. I'm not going to yarn long on this statement.
You go right
Would
ahead.
you allow me?
I will.
Thank you. I'm not going to go on Sager Creek Advisory Committee, but if you do 50% of it, it'd be beautiful to include fountains. But one of the things I just encourage the Parks and Recs Board, Advisory Board to look into is, I can't say it enough, Governor Sanders has created a tourism initiative program, and it gives incentives for large donors to get tax breaks to put money in specifically what we're talking about. And it's state funded. And Northwest Arkansas specifically, I know her husband's actively involved up here. I think we have a tie with Governor Sanders and her father. I think they're fond of Northwest Arkansas, and it's an opportunity. We're in an opportunity zone. And sport tourism is like any other tourism. It's an investment that creates revenue And every problem that we're talking about needs revenue. And the revenue can be earmarked for streets, can be earmarked for sewage, whatever it is. So an investment in tourism, whatever form that is, creates that additional tax base. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Sorry, Mayor.
Madam Mayor, just really quick.
Real quick.
From a citizen, just regarding the lights and everything, the conduit was roughed in for lights, but they just never got installed. And there is power at the soccer fields. They use temporary power for the games, so.
Okay, good to know. Thank you very much. All right. Again, thank you all very much for being here and giving us an update and some food for thought, definitely. So with that, we will move to our consent agenda. Item A, regular meeting minutes, January 21st, 2025. B, workshop minutes, January 21st, 2025. Item C, budget amendment, Public Works 2025 Streets Capital Improvement Projects. D, purchase Parks and Recreation for a 2025 Ford F-250 4x4 Crew Cab from Smart Ford in Malvern for $62,413. Item E, purchase Public Works Department Street Division 2025 Kubota Mini Excavator from Springdale Tractor, $71,813.16. Directors, is there any item that you would like to pull for separate consideration?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, David.
letter D.
Letter D. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with item D removed?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Bristler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved. So we will consider item D, the purchase of Parks and Recreation for the 2025 Ford F-250. David?
I just had a question for Travis on the truck. Is there some reason why we're getting diesel? Diesel costs so much more than gas. And also, I noticed on the bid, or not the bid spec, but the sale invoice, it's got tinted windows. Why would we pay extra for tinted windows?
I think that's an option you can get, but it's not one we're selecting.
Oh, it looked like we were paying for tinted window. It looked like it, but.
I can go back and check, but.
But the
it's-
diesel was my big question, because it was so much, it was like an
Sure.
$11,000 addition for diesel.
Sure.
And it just seems like it's so much difference at the pump to pay for diesel that I don't quite get why we would do that. And I know many times, just from my own experience, my family's experience, diesel engines many times can cause a lot more problems than a gas engine down the road.
I'll say, you know, again, with any vehicle, there's always people that have strong opinions either way.
You're right.
We're running all diesel trucks. We've had good luck with power. They're towing, that's all they do is tow trailer all day. So one, it's what we've got. It keeps us from, we run diesel fuel cells on the back of every truck that we can fuel our mowers, fuel our trucks with, being able to fuel everything. And then we've had just good luck with pulling trailers all the time with a heavy diesel engine. But you're right, it is more expensive up front.
That explains it. I appreciate it. Thank you. You want to, I understand wanting to keep everything standard. You know, if you've already got it, then yeah.
Sure.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve item D for the purchase in Parks and Recreation?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Bristler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you, directors, and thank you, Travis. So with that, before we move into our regularly scheduled items, whenever Resolution 01-25, which deals with the pickleball professional and tennis professional, the board had asked Travis to get some input from some other people that were using those services, and also Allison Bellamy, who has been a big part of our pickleball program. So she is here with him tonight. However, she does have another place she is supposed to be here in a little while. So I would ask the directors for a motion to move Resolution 0125 to this time spot. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Bristler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Motion is approved. So with that, we will consider Resolution 01-25 for professional services designation, pickleball professional and/or tennis professional. Travis?
Travis Cheney, Parks and Recreation Manager. Mayor Nation, would now be an okay time for public input?
Well, after you,
You have to do the presentation.
Okay.
yeah, after
Thank
you
you.
have given your presentation, and then we actually will open the floor. Yes,
Great.
sir.
My apologies.
No, that's fine.
So since 2020, Parks and Rec has been running kind of informal pickleball play and instruction in town. As y'all well know, y'all have all been down there and seen the number of pickleballers out there. I think their Facebook page is somewhere like 500, Brent, is that right? 600. 600 now. So it's a fast-growing sport. Any Parks and Rec department I talk to, the only thing we talk about is what are we going to do about pickleball? So fast-growing, but currently we have no leagues, no formal instruction, no clinics, anything, tournaments like that. And we have a contingency of folks who would like to have an opportunity to play in more leagues, to see tournaments come to town. I'll say the regional standard by which this is done in Bentonville, Rogers, Fayetteville, anywhere locally, is typically it's a third-party contractor who has experience, credentials in coaching pickleball, in running tournaments, some sort of professional pickleball credential. They are the ones supplying the staff to run the leagues, to host the tournaments, to do the clinics and the trainings, and then they provide the city with some agreed upon percentage of the proceeds. So that is what we're recommending in this case, to contract with a third-party firm to run pickleball professional services in Siloam for those that would like to have more opportunities to play in an organized fashion. All we're asking for tonight is permission to release a request for proposals.
Well, but you're designating that it's a professional.
Correct. Designated as a professional service and release a request for proposals through the RFQ process.
So, directors, before I open up for public comment, do you have any questions of Travis before we have the public input?
I just have, I'm sorry, go ahead. You just said RFP and RFQ. Are you doing an RFP or an RFQ?
My proposal, RFP would be this one.
Request for proposal.
Yes, sir. My apologies.
David?
So, Travis, when you put this out and you get 2, 3 different proposals, do you make the decision? Does the Parks Advisory Board make the decision? How's the process from
Typically,
there?
when we do something like this, we'll bring it to the Parks Advisory Board. We have a scoring rubric. Most of it's specified by state law, what you can score on, and we add some other things in there depending on the project. Parks Advisory Board scores it. Depending on what the project is, there's usually 2 or 3 staff that also score, and then we would bring whoever was the highest scored to Alan to look at our scoring rubric and approve it. And then we would try to enter into an agreement with the highest qualified firm. And during that agreement process is when you start bringing price into it. And if you can come to some agreement that is approved by either the board or the city administrator, depending on the price, then you move forward.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, we will ask for public input, and I will ask that during public input that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, please. So,
My name is Brent Barrowcliff. I'm on the Parks and Recs Advisory Board. I've been on it for 2 years. I'm in my third year of that. And I have been playing pickleball for 7 years here in Siloam Springs. So I got on the Parks and Rec Board because we needed to address pickleball. And I want to say thank you to the board because you guys approved that we would change out the tennis courts downtown into pickleball courts, and those are being used. So we're coming to you with another request, and that's for a pickleball program operator. And I know that proposal sounds like it might not be needed, but it is needed because over 600 people are on our Facebook page. That doesn't mean 600 people are down there, but that means how many people are interested in pickleball, and that is just growing every week. I'm seeing new people every week that come out and play. And the reason is we need teaching, we need leagues, we need tournaments, and we need someone to coordinate that. So what I'm asking you is to consider that because it's something that I think we need in this community.
Thank you.
Just so you know, I am not a pickleball expert. Allison Bellamy, and I just want to echo on what Brent has said. As you know, Siloam Pickleball has grown, and we are so thankful for the courts. As someone who worked for the city this summer teaching pickleball, I would have people come every single week, wanting to not only learn the game, but to get better at the game. And it was a really fun opportunity to really teach something besides just the basics. And it's a big need here. People want to have more organized play, more leagues, more tournaments. They really want to take it to the next level. And this is something as a whole, it'd be really fun to offer here in Siloam. And this group could come in and really oversee and just help build that program that if you drive by the courts, I guarantee you, it is packed. And actually, it was a really great summer. And we're excited to see where this can go and really build it. And it also could bring revenue as well in terms of tournaments and other things for our town. So, and we would love to join with someone.
Absolutely.
Tennis is so passé.
Who needs tennis?
You play in a lot of tournaments around. I see your pic, don't you, you're always winning.
I
see your
have done a
pictures
few
all the
tournaments.
time.
I did go to nationals this past year representing Siloam.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
So our courts are equipped to have the tournaments and everything. Are they going to take a lot of work, or are they there?
It will take work, but our courts can handle it. 6 courts is not very many, but you could still generate. I've been helping run leagues at Upward, and we only have 3, and we are averaging over 100 people at every league, every 5-6 weeks. So it could be a great partnership. And there is a definite need. I've heard several people come up to me and say they would love organized leagues and play downtown. And so.
Well, I hope you don't care that we kind of threw your name around saying, well, has Allison approved this?
I might have gotten a text or two.
Like, we don't want to do this unless
And I
we
appreciate that.
the
Thank you.
local pro has looked at it.
We've worked really hard to build it here in Siloam. And it's a great community of people.
Madam Mayor, just to get your opinion on this, the only concern I expressed about this was just I wanted to make sure there was still going to be plenty of time for those that just want to have fun playing pickleball.
I think that's, yeah.
So the leagues and the tournaments and all that
I think
would
because
still leave enough time.
I think
for
because there are
for
6
fun.
courts, you
Yeah.
could have 2 or 3 open still.
Okay.
And maybe have a 6 to 10 week league where you're just learning the basics of pickleball and improving, and save 2 courts for that, or have a league one night that's got 3 courts. I think there's a way to mix all that together.
Okay, great, thank you.
Can I add something, Allison?
Yeah.
Thanks, Allison. I believe in your packet, you should have the request for proposals, our draft request for proposals. And our primary thing that we are looking in there is we strictly limit here how many times a week you can have leagues. Our number 1 priority is making sure that it's free and open to the public. Here's the number of times a year we can do tournaments. And so that is kind of our highest priority, is making sure that it's available for free use as often as possible, while still letting the folks that would like to up their game have an opportunity to do that.
Any other questions, directors?
Travis, just listening to the two commenters, we only have, what Allison say, 6 courts,
Yes, sir.
and that's all on Bob Henry.
That's correct.
Is there any room to maybe build more at some point in the future? I think you're kind of landlocked with the
We
basketball
are.
courts on one side.
It was going to be about $800,000 to rip out the courts that were there and expand, and that's why we went with renovate the existing.
I mean, you got the parking lot on one side.
Yeah, elsewhere, it would either mean using some city property that is not currently being used for a park, but you have to build parking lots, sidewalks. It'd be hard to get out of it for less than $800,000 to $1 million. So it's definitely doable elsewhere, but it's very expensive.
We appreciate you having the Parks Advisory Board here as well as the people involved with pickleball here to help us understand this better. I had previously, when you had first brought this, I thought you had it designated like ready to go right then and there. And now I understand it better that this is a RFP that, I mean, I see March 10th as your like deadline for people to turn it in. But it also looks like it essentially is like hiring someone to do the pickleball program, but you're doing it as an RFP instead of hiring an employee. So that makes it more understandable for me better. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Then do I have a motion to approve Resolution 01-25?
Moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Ressler?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you all very much for being here and your input, and we can now move forward. So next, we are going into the rest of our agenda, and I have been requested for a 5-minute recess. We will take that 5-minute recess and reconvene at 7:50. Thank you, everyone. If you will please return to your seats, we will reconvene this meeting. And we will now move into our ordinances and resolutions. Before we move into that, I do just want to make a clarification on time limits. I know that I have been asked by board members, by public. I've reread and went back to the rules and order of procedures that our board passed, and I have checked with our city attorney. So whenever we have public input, whether it is at the beginning of the meeting or whether it is in during conversations with the board on the ordinances and resolutions, public input time will be 3 minutes. So just so everyone is aware of that, and please help us observe that. So with that, we will move on to our ordinances. Ordinance 25-1, third reading, amend City Municipal Code, Section 22-323, ambulance fee schedule. Chief Kendall.
Madam Mayor, Board. This ordinance, we have not had any comments from the public. We have not had any comments from staff, and I'm available for any questions. Just a reminder that this is aligning us to update our ambulance billing rates to help us narrow the gap between EMS cost supplies, or supply cost with what revenue we do bring in.
Perfect, thank you. Directors,
Remind me how long
comments or
it's been.
questions?
I'm sorry. It's in here. How long has it been since they were updated?
I think it was 2011.
Anyone else? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to ordinance 25-1? If not, do I have a motion to place ordinance 25-1 on its third and final reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Rissler?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 2501, ordinance amending section 22-323, 323 of the Siloam Springs Code to adjust service rates and billing procedures.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 25-1?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Bristler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Ordinance 25-1 is adopted. Next is ordinance 25-02, second reading, annexation of 57.37 acres on the 20,000 block of Bruce Rutherford Road. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board, Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. Just a reminder, this is the annexation of 20,000 block of Bruce Rutherford Road, as the mayor stated. It's taking in 57.37 acres, and it's coming in with the default zoning, the R2 zoning. Of course, as you guys know from the workshop, this is the same land that's the Winding Springs project. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Comments or questions from the directors?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Lisa.
Ben, have you had any comments or questions from the community?
Not since the first reading, no.
And what was there, was there any before the first reading?
I believe there was one question from a neighbor in the Grandview subdivision about what was going on, but nothing since then.
Okay, they just wanted to know they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, they got the letter and just want to know what it is. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone else? Anything from the staff? No? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 25-02? There is not. Do I have a motion to place ordinance 25-02 on its second reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Bristler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 25-02, an ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory described the 20,000 block of Bruce Rutherford Road to the city of Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and assigning same to award.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 25-03, second reading, vacation of utility easements at the 1300 block of North Britt Street. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 2. This is the second reading of a request to vacate utility easements at the 1300 block of North Britt Street. Actually, need to change the slide. There we go. There have been no changes since the first reading, and I haven't received any phone calls or correspondence since that first reading, and staff is still available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Directors, comments or questions for Megan? If there is none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 25-03? Not. Directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 25-03 on its second reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Burns.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Bristler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 25-03, an ordinance vacating and abandoning the utility easements at the 1300 block of North Britt Street.
Thank you, sir. Next is ordinance 25-04, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to R4, the 400 block of Meadow Court. Ben?
Yes, thank you again, members of the board, Madam Mayor. This is a rezoning 400 block of Meadow Court. The request is going from A1 agricultural to R4, as you can see in the picture there on the left, showing the property there at the end of the Meadow Circle Apartments. The applicant requests to rezone the 2.1 acres to R4 to allow for several two-story quadplexes, similar to the existing development that's to the west of the site. Future land use map will need to be amended to allow for the multifamily. And here you see the future land use map showing as neighborhood 1. If you're going to do fourplexes or townhomes or something similar to that, what would be allowed in R4, you would need to amend it to allow for one of these two land uses on the left there, or on the right. The site is currently an open field. As you see a picture there on the left of the property, it's not believed to be currently used for agricultural uses. There are existing single-family housing that butts the site to the north as well on the south sides. You can see one of the homes there on the bottom left there picture. The applicant has indicated that his intent is, as I said earlier, to construct several two-story quadplexes. The design will have no windows that will face to the existing homes on either side of the property. They're what he told me was that it was going to be more townhome-styled units with the ground floor entry, but two-story. Access to the site is only through the existing apartment complex. The proposed land use will be consistent with what's existing in Benton Ridge subdivision, shown in the bottom left. So if you're looking at this picture with the top picture and you literally turn around 180 degrees, this is what you'll see at the bottom left there. So it's essentially you are going through the apartment complex to get to this property. As I mentioned earlier, the future land use map amendment is needed. After the Planning Commission, staff did receive a call in opposition to the request, generally on the grounds of increased traffic and crime. Staff's findings is that we find that it meets the minimum requirements for the zoning if the future land use map is amended, and the Planning Commission is recommending approval. And we stand ready for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Directors, comments or questions for Ben?
Ben,
Indy?
I do have a question. In the general summary in our packet, it states that the applicant says in their letter of intent that if this is rezoned, it will be used to construct 2 or more quadplexes. This says several. So is it 2 or is it several? I know 2 or more. And what would be the limit? What's the most they could build?
I was understanding that it was 2. Now, when they come through, they would have to get a significant development permit. And at that point, we'll look at the site and determine the density requirement. But the rule is it's no more than 16 dwelling units per acre is the max allowed in R4. So
it could be up to 32.
That's what the zoning would allow, 16 units per acre. Again, we could employ, similar to other projects, the one that comes to mind is out on Holly, the apartments there in Holly and Quarter Road, where we put up trees and shrubbery and that type of thing to block the view of these from single family. So there are different things that we can look at the significant development stage to help mitigate any impacts to existing properties.
And I would like to see something like that. I noticed that there is a fence along that north side, but you can see the house on the other side right over the fence. And so if you could do a tree line or something for a little bit more separation, I think that would even help noise. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Lisa.
You mentioned Holly and Quarter Road, since it's in my ward, and what kind of issues have we had with that?
I'm not familiar with any issues post-development. I don't know.
That's the big apartment complex, right?
It's a complex right by a single house like that.
Okay.
And we did have plans that nobody was supposed to move in, I think, wasn't it? And somehow we started letting people move in, and we didn't make sure all the requirements were met. And the people that live right by it are miserable. They're miserable. And so, and it's warranted miserable. It's not I'm just complaining because I have an apartment complex. It's warranted because lights shining into their house when it feels like daylight because lights are shining into their house. And so how are we going to prevent those things? Because that happened, this isn't in my ward. I think this is in Ken's ward. And so, but that is in my ward, and those people have been miserable. And I want to make sure we protect those people in those houses, that they shouldn't have lights shining in their house and it looks like daylight in the middle of the night. And they shouldn't have people staring in at them when they're in their yard or, you know, or on their property. We've had a lot of issues. So what are we going to do with this one to prevent most of that?
Kevin, is that the one that, and my apologies, is that the one that I've asked to put bushes in there before we signed off on final?
That's never been done. The bushes have never been put up. The trees have never been put up. They've watered. They carry a hose around in the summer to water the trees that they have put in, and so most of them have died. It was built up 6 feet, so now the parking lot looks directly into the windows of their bedroom. There are drainage issues. It's a mess.
That's one thing, the drainage
Oh,
issues.
and that's right.
The
Yeah, and those
culverts that
huge
were allowed
drains.
to be built.
Directors, if I could ask just one of you at a time, please. So Betsy, do you have more comments? You have the floor.
No, just that nothing has ever been done, nothing's been followed up on. Yeah, and those people are miserable because that apartment complex was allowed to be built 6 feet higher than code allows with no thought to what it's done to the people who have lived there for 60 years.
David?
I have had complaints as well. And what we were told was not what ended up being developed and built. We were never informed that that was federal government funded housing. The entire complex was built up far too high off the ground, probably because it was in a floodplain, and we tried to explain to staff this is in a floodplain and should not be allowed to have this much apartment complexes built. But the most frustrating thing is that, yes, we had a hold on the entire thing. You have only one piece of leverage to make sure developers follow through and do everything they're supposed to do. And you cannot allow them to start renting or start allowing residents to move in until every little check mark has been ticked off. And we didn't do that. We were supposed to, but we didn't do that. The problem that the renters have, and that's when you know that there's real problems, is when the actual renters, not the owners, but the renters say, our children are getting stuck in these culverts because the culvert drainage was built so high with at least a foot difference between the top of it and the bottom. And the children can climb down in, and then they can climb through the pipes. And these things were never supposed to be built like that. And yet, if we had reviewed them before renting out, we could have, and this is not one culvert, this is every single drainage culvert on this complex of properties. It's a lot of apartment buildings, and it is one of the first, if not one of the first, it's one of the latest low-income government-funded housing. And we were never informed that that was what the basis of it was. And there's been an awful lot of stuff that's come up about it and how wrong it was.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Brad.
So on the 400 block of Meadow Court, once again, I took time and I walked that out and looked at the topography of the land, and it does need to be rezoned. It butts up against the old Esther Jane property. It's been there for years. Two things that is a problem going to R4, it was mentioned by the other directors, that is a dramatic upslope. So anything you build on there is going to be, I don't want to use the word extremely elevated, but it doesn't have any choice. It is going to be elevated. So that's a cause for concern. the drainage there, if you follow what we put in for what it is now and the hard surface that exists, is going to have to be upgraded. So I don't know if this is the same developer that owns the properties there. And then also, we're inheriting another set of cement streets that are starting to collapse. So if you drive up and get out and look, take a walkabout. So those three factors are concerning. Is there, it's a first reading, so I'm going to vote no because I don't think you can house an R4. I think you can do something else on that lot. It deserves an R factor, but I don't think the way that lands, the slope of that land fits. I just don't think that's going to fit in there and go cohesive with the other R2s that are flanking north and south.
Mayor?
Yes, David.
I have a question for staff. Is the person that is applying for this the same individual who built the other ones further west? Is it a different developer? Anybody know?
I don't have that information. I think it's probably a different owner.
I didn't know if you knew off the top of your head. It seems to be the same type of development as what is going down the street. And so I have not seen a problem with this one. I just had a problem with comparing it to the other one, but I have not seen a problem with this one. But I agree with everything Director Burns just said, that it is a problem no matter what.
Anyone else? Ken?
Ben, my first question, just for clarification, I want to make sure I understood you. You said 16 units per acre?
Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct. 16 units per acre is the maximum allowed density in R4.
Okay, is that, since this is a quad unit, is that per residence or per structure?
It's dwelling units,
Okay,
so 16 dwelling units in an acre.
Okay, so that would be 4 buildings.
Yes, if that's how you're breaking it out. Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
it's
if
a
you had
quad.
4 per.
Each building
yeah.
has 4 units.
Right, so
Okay.
four quads, yeah.
Okay. I was just, I thought that's right, but I think I heard something or
8 total.
8 total within 2 acres, yeah. And I agree with what Brad said. I've got some questions and concerns, and I think you've heard some as well, so I'm hoping by the next meeting, maybe we'll have a little bit more information and a little more clarity on that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Ben, do you know on the ones that are further west that have been there for a while, what are those R3 or R4?
I believe they're all R4, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Reed.
I do see some concerns with this. I know it's first reading. I'll be voting yes on this for the first reading, but if we don't have some more clarification, then I may not be able to uphold after that.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Again, this just hit me. You know, Brad said he would be voting no. 4 no's, there will be no other readings
That's right.
for this, so.
That's correct. 4 no votes defeats the resolution. Anyone else? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 25-04?
My name is Don Emanuel. I'm a Siloam Springs resident living in Copperleaf Development at 1895 North Midland Knoll Drive.
I'm sorry. This is for Meadow Court? Is that what you're?
This is for Midland Knoll Drive, which abuts up to Meadow Court.
I understand. Go right ahead.
My wife Judy and I will have lived in this development for 11 years this coming April 2025. During those years, we've seen a lot of changes to the neighborhood, some expected and welcomed. This note is to comment on the pending change that will affect our neighborhood, especially those of us with properties that border the south side of Copperleaf. My comments are directed specifically to the board's pending changes requested by Paul Jong, owner of 2.12 acres in Benton County Tax Parcel 0300396,006. That property is part of the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter in Section 31, Township 18, North Range 33 West. The north side of the parcel bumps up to copperleaf property lines of several of my neighbors' privately fence lines. Paul Jong is asking that the city of Siloam's rezone the 2.12 acres from its present agricultural zone designation to residential multifamily zone. The intent is to construct quadplexes on the parcel. My personal concerns. Number one, there seems to be no plan to widen the drive from Mount Olive to the 2.12 acres. Emergency equipment currently experience a tight squeeze when answering service calls because existing duplex tenants park in front of their units on both sides of the street. Number two, the existing apartments often do not have sufficient parking available for tenants who have more than one vehicle in their unit. They are single-family dwellings, but that single family is not being enforced. I did census in the last census, and I found 3 and 4 families living in a unit at a time. And code did nothing upon that advice. Proposed additional duplex units, 4 to 8 units is what I was thinking, would likely allow residents to have at least 2 vehicles per unit, and that'll strain the 2.12 acres capacity. Number 3, my wife and I are often awakened from sleep at 11 p.m. to midnight in summer, that's when the leaves are off the trees, with police responding to noise calls from existing apartments. Increasing the housing density of this area threatens an increase in emergency service calls simply by the nature of the tenants. Lights into existing homes on the other side of the fence, privacy fence, affect my neighbors, often into the 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Homeowners also are concerned about their sales right now because of the existing apartments. Several sales have gone through as neighbors try after 11 years to make a sale, and the first thing that's noted is, oh, you've got those signs and those lights coming in. And so what's happening now is that they are very, very nervous about that. The other thing is that the parking spaces themselves, when you have 2 to 4 cars in a single unit, there's just no way that you can do a hard surface enough if you're going to put 4 plexes in there. While I understand a request to make a landlocked parcel of land useful and profitable to the owner, I request the board re-examine any proposal for multifamily buildings on this parcel. Thank you. 2 minutes and 27 seconds. I'm out of here.
Thank you, Don. All right, directors, do you have any questions or comments from, yes,
think we
sir.
have another.
Absolutely.
Can you speak?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm Jason Ingles. I'm the civil engineer on the project that presented the rezoning on behalf of our client. The Paul Jong owns it, but it's under contract to be sold, and that's the purpose of the rezoning. We don't want to be thrown into a category. I realize that R4 can allow apartments. That's not what he's not wanting to reciprocate what is being done next door. He has in mind, of course, you can't hold him to it, I know that, but he has these very elegant-looking 2-story townhomes that will have garages in them so that 1 car can be parked in the garage and then 1 in the drive to allow for the 2 parking spaces. We don't intend building a parking lot like the apartments to the west has. And then 16 units per acre, I don't know that we can fit that many because by the time we do drainage, as most of us engineers do, we can increase the runoff. So we end up with some sort of a detention pond to hold the water back. But what I wanted to point out as the gentleman was talking about the lighting is hopefully this wouldn't be as lighting, what's the word verbiage I'm looking for? Obtrusive to the neighbors because we won't be looking at putting street lights in to light up a parking lot. This is normal lighting like on a duplex where you've got lights on the garages. That's what the kind of lighting that we're looking at putting on this property. Very upscale. They will be rented, but they are upscale, so I'm sure rents will have to be higher than what a normal apartment building would be. So and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mayor Jason. Appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
First, I'll ask, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this ordinance? And if there is not, directors, comments or questions at this point? Yes, David.
Mr. Ingalls, why would you ask for R4 if you're not going to go all the way to utilize what is like the other?
We'll go as dense as we can, but as me being an engineer and a civil engineer, I don't think we could probably get 4 in there, but it depends on the drainage. We're going to have to put a detention pond. We're going to have to meet green space requirements and those sorts of things. So that may limit some of it based on just engineering and meeting city code.
You said upscale and no parking lot. I drive by and know what this gentleman's talking about, that there are lots of cars that park in the street, and that there are, I have no doubt what he said, that there's more than one family living in the apartments that are there now. So I'm surprised that you would expect to put fewer on the property you have now than what is already there.
So, I mean, you want to speak? This is the
Well,
potential buyer. Maybe
This
you
is,
can- You'll say your name.
my name's Brian Trucks. I'm the potential buyer, have a contract on the property. I submitted this floor plan of this fourplex to Ben. It's being looked at as a proposal to build. I'm going to show it to you.
Give it to the city clerk, please. Give it to the city clerk, please. Thank you, sir.
And I'd like to know the name and address.
Of myself?
Yes, yes, sir.
I live in Gravett, 609 Southeast Atlanta Street in Gravett. I know the apartments have exterior lighting for the parking lot. I don't want to do anything like that. I want to do what Jason was talking about, indirect lighting. You know, it's be more, it's a fourplex, but it'll actually be very similar to a single family, you know, but it will have adjoining walls. So we're asking for multifamily because of the location and where it's at. I think it will serve a better use for the property for R4 multifamily, you know, so.
Mayor?
Yes, David.
I never quite understand when we have these situations where the property's under contract, but the owner is who has filled out the paperwork and has gone through the process with staff, but the owner is not here. The person buying the property is who is here. This is confusing. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We saw this recently with the tiny homes out near the church, in that the person buying the property was here trying to influence us to approve the zoning change. And I'm just really lost as to why we're always dealing with different people and it's not the person whose actual name is on the paperwork.
Can I answer that?
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I think Chris, our community director.
Madam Mayor, when we have a project that has an owner with a representative buyer, that representative buyer has to sign paperwork that would allow the purchaser, the buyer of the property, to speak on behalf of the owner. So it's not that they're here to encourage us, they actually have permission from the property owner to speak on their behalf.
Thank you, Chris. And I'm assuming that's kind of what you were going to tell us? or do you
Yes, I
have-
think to your question, a lot of times, you know, myself being the potential developer, purchasing of the property, the cost of hiring the engineer and permit, request for permit and that kind of thing is where
the buyer takes those costs in hand and pays those fees. So, and not the current owner.
Thank you.
That could be
Madam Mayor.
part of
Yes,
that
Brad.
issue.
As I said before, it needs to be rezoned, but once again, as I look at these are flat, so topography of that, you're not gonna flatten that land out.
parcel
And so-
slopes from-
Can I finish?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. So the problem is, as the citizen just spoke, is the elevation that creates surrounded by an R2. So something that I think would be, I could understand there because of the location. Number one, you aren't going to get a higher rent because you're traveling through a location that is not there. Just my observation. I don't do real estate for a living. It needs to be developed. The encouragement would be something that was more single-floor townhome that would be less intrusive to the neighborhood would be a compromise. Understanding you may not create the revenue that you're looking for, but that would be, that's a suggestion.
Yeah.
Director? Yes, Ken.
I have a question for Chief Kendall.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
What is your assessment of current conditions and your ability to respond if this was to take place?
With cars being parked on both sides of that street, it is tight to get emergency vehicles down. That's a bridge we can cross. Me and Chief Miller are actually coming up with different ways that we can address that issue. I haven't seen the development, as this is just a rezone, but I'm sure that we'll have some comment as to the single access road in and out of that proposed development. So, but that would come with the significant development permit.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Like I said earlier, I agree with Director Burns. I don't think R4 is the best thing here. I also agree with Director Carroll. I mean, if I had to put a percent to it, I'm like 51-49 right now. I am going to vote yes, since this is the first reading, but I will be looking into this deeply, and that could change by the next meeting. But
Andy?
Mayor, and I echo what Directors Carroll and Weil have said. I appreciate the renderings, the drawings that you brought tonight. That does help. I'm a little stuck on the, even though you said it may not be 32 units, that is a lot of units. When I first read our packet, I read 2 fourplexes. And that's kind of, and I thought, oh, that's doable. But more than that, I just have some concerns, and so I will vote to go on to its second reading, and just so the public does know, that doesn't mean we're voting for it. But I just will need some more information myself.
Sure.
And I appreciate what the other directors have said. I meant to drive by it myself, and I didn't get a chance to, but if there's a concern with the elevation as it is now, those are the kind of questions we'll have to get answered, so.
Sure, we'll try to come back with some better information the second meeting, so apologize, we're not better prepared.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I did just want to just briefly touch on, if I may, just for just a few seconds. One of the things that the applicant was discussing was the difference between the buildable density versus the density of 16 units per acre. The 16 units per acre is referred to as base density. That base density is the maximum number, if we didn't consider anything else, of how many units you can fit on 1 acre of property. The engineer had spoke about the buildable units. When you add things like the required parking, you add those other things, then we refer to that as the remainder as the residential density allowance. So you have this after you meet all of the requirements of code, then you still have in that same acreage what's left to build on. So you can, with the remaining acreage, then that would be referred to as that residential density. And I believe that if we want to talk about that more in the future, then I'm happy to discuss that. But I just wanted to clarify that that's a little confusing, but those are the two differences, is residential versus base density.
And I think I understand about that, but there's still just a lot of unknown.
I think what'll help everybody out is by the next meeting, we'll try to put together maybe a concept of what that actual density could possibly be based on what he's looking at building, and see how that pencils out. Have more of a definite answer for you guys.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Chris. So, directors, I have a motion to place ordinance 25-04 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only?
Madam Mayor?
Yes?
May I real quickly also request, with that would be topography and how that will actually lay adjacent to the R2 based on the citizens' concern? Or whatever that design is that you have, so we get at least a visual what that would look like?
Sure, we have that topography, the Benton County, and you know that, the GIS has 2-foot contours, and we can overlay that over there as well to help you guys out. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
No.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
No.
Burns,
No.
Motion is approved by a 4-3 vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 25-05, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R2 to R3, 339 and 349 East Copperleaf Drive. Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir, I do. Thank you. How could I forget?
Ordinance number 25-04, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from A1 to R4, property located at the 400 block of Meadow Court, and amending the future land use map of the Siloam Springs 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. Now we will move to ordinance 25-05, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R2 to R3, 339 and 349 East Copperleaf Drive. Ben.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board, Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. So we're not very far in location from the previous rezoning. We're just about a block north off of East Copperleaf Drive. And the proposal is to rezone an R2 single-family property to R3 for duplex. As you can see in the map there on the left, roughly where that's located on the north side of East Copperleaf. It's excuse me, it's 0.614 acres. And that, of course, going to R3 would allow for duplex, 2 family units for both of the lots there, so maximum 4 total units allowed. Just bring you familiar with this. This was brought up at the last one, but it's the same area, as you can see, but this will also require a future land use map update to allow for duplex. As you can see, is not allowed in the neighborhoods 1, so they would need to go amend this to neighborhoods 2. Here we have some photos of just what this area looks like. So rezoning from R2 to R3 is the property shown at the end of the street. The bottom picture there, roughly where I'm circling my mouse. That site is currently a wooded area. It was previously platted as 2 lots under the R2 zone, assumption that there'd be 2 single-family homes there. There is existing single-family located right across the street. As you also can see, they're really located at the head of Audubon Court, at the end of the street where it dead ends to Copperleaf. Two-family uses are typically contained usually within their own street, not really intermixed within the subdivision. Future land use map, as I mentioned, would be update would be needed to neighborhoods 2, as neighborhood 1 does not support the duplex housing. The Planning Commission does not support changing the map for this specific location. Allowing two-family at this location also may usher in additional two-family along East Copperleaf, particularly on the northern side of East Copperleaf. So here's some additional pictures just showing as best I could the feel of this area. So the top image here is East Copperleaf. So the subject property will be on the left side here. Audubon Court is coming right off of it here to the right. As you can see, it's all single family along on the south side of Copperleaf. The middle image shows a new single family home that's being constructed directly behind the subject property. And the bottom image shows Copperleaf Drive looking the opposite direction from the top image, with two-family units off Wooddale Court, which has been the far background, but facing in towards Wooddale Court, not onto Copperleaf. These house units are housed on their own street, and only their sides are visible from East Copperleaf and the vicinity. There's no other single family in that direct vicinity. As you saw in the staff report, there are possible code issues with Chapter 54 approval criteria, and Planning Commission recommending denial. With that, we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Betsy.
So the last one for the multifamily, it was recommended to amend the future land use map, but it's not on this one. I walked around this area, drove around the apartments, all of that. So off of Copperleaf, the first road, Woodall, like you said, it's all duplexes. It's an entire street of duplexes, which is right next to 3 streets that have single-family homes. This is basically catty corner across from an entire street of duplexes. And then on the south side of these single-family homes are apartments. So there's already a mix there, and it's why, if I'm sure you remember when I said during the workshop, so you're going to have people living in single-family homes driving past a multifamily unit. I was told that was the excuse for denying this or recommending denial, is that the people who live in single-family homes are going to have to drive by this. Well, they also drive by Woodall, which is an entire street. This doesn't make sense to me. I mean, we've got a local developer. He builds 100% brick duplexes. They're very nice duplexes. The ones on Woodall, I think, are 100% brick or mostly. It goes with the area, what's already there. So I really don't, and now you want to approve a planned development, which is basically a mixed use of different houses. So I really don't understand why it's okay to have apartments button up to the single-family houses, this planned development to have mixed family, but here we've got a local contractor who builds beautiful duplexes, and we're going to say no when there are duplexes right across the street.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Lisa.
who is the developer?
Let's see. I can put it up here one.
He has, I don't know, 50 duplexes around, and they're all 100% brick.
Yeah, do you have?
Madam Mayor, the developer's M4 Construction LLC, Scott Mayberry.
Thank you.
Do you have examples of his work? This is the first reading. We have time. I'd like to see. Well, maybe if it passes.
Yeah, so I think she's asking if you have, yeah.
Madam Mayor, the staff cannot request examples of work whenever it's relative to a land use. That's something that the board members could potentially reach out if they wanted to, but I would caution that whenever we're talking about land use determinations, that we're just looking at those compatibility and other types of components, and that anything that would be relative to development would be secondary to the use. So the use itself is all we consider at this time.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yes.
I get Betsy's point. I didn't realize that's the way it is, and I get it, because we do have an issue that I have a lot of local developers come to me. So can you give a solid justification besides just, I mean, I know you presented your case, but,
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
how we look at it, it's all about the location and context of the area. So where these are cited in particular, it's essentially duplexes at the end of a street of single family, and you typically don't have duplexes intermixed within a single family subdivision. I know you're saying the case with Winding Springs is the same thing. I don't see it as the same thing. Those are a different design. They're on different streets. They're backing out into other duplexes, so it's a buffer, if you will, to the commercial properties up along Highway 412. I think it's a different situation. I don't see it as the same. And so, I think, just my professional opinion, it raises concerns. I'm not necessarily making a recommendation one way or the other, but it raises concerns that when this comes in, then what's stopping further R3 going all the way down East Copperleaf, because you wouldn't really have a case anymore to deny the next one, because it would be butting up to existing duplexes. And was the vision for this entire neighborhood to have duplexes along the northern edge of Copperleaf? I don't know the answer to that question, but it raised some concerns as stated in the staff report. So,
can we pull a map up of that area, like a Google map of that area, that shows the East Copperleaf, and then the Meadow Court, and then it has the Woodland Courts? Can you pull a map up of that?
Because it's not a single-family neighborhood. There are duplexes along one entire street.
The entire street was started as a duplex. I mean, the whole development, that's how it began.
So this is duplexes. It sort of acts as a buffer between here and Mount Olive, but then single family for Audubon, Mesick, and Midland Knoll. And so these are all contained within their own street. If we were proposing duplexes on the north, it would bring them all the way, potentially, with future rezonings, all the way up to Midland Knoll Court, all on the north side of Copperleaf. In sort of the mix of that single-family development, it would feel to me different than having them contained within their own street, and you're only seeing maybe the sides of them as you drive down Copperleaf. So
Can you show us where that project before, the ordinance before, show us, circle where that would have been on
the
there?
previous, the previous one, or that was down here.
There are
And then that one up
apartments
there.
all to the west. Those are apartments going across.
Yeah, so the previous one for the R4
What's
was
the
down.
zoning to the right?
Let me go back to
Oh.
the map. So here's the map. This is R4 for Wooddale. We have R2 along in here and R2 up along the north.
Go back to that map you had, that on the right where there's just pasture land, fields or whatever. What is that? Is that in city limits, and what is the zoning?
This is mostly agricultural land through here. So this is A1, and I believe this is all A1 as well.
Reed, you had a question?
Yes, Madam Mayor, not a question. I was part of this real estate transaction, and I feel I need to step aside on this.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
Ben, since you have this up here, let me just point out, there's Don Hill, or First Baptist Church off of Don Hill. All the new homes that have just been built across the street, north of this right here, are any of those duplexes?
No, those are
They're
all
single
single
family. All of
family.
them are single family?
Yes.
I just know when Copperleaf first got built, it was done by Crine, and it was done with the plan to be duplexes, and the first street is all duplexes, and it is what you see when you drive on Highway 43 Don Hill on the corner. That's what you see is the back of all those duplexes. I really, you know, I've heard over the years staff say that, well, I don't think we should do this because I'm worried about this or I'm worried about this. The thing now I'm hearing is that, well, people will have to see duplexes. We have duplexes across the street from single-family homes all over this city, Ben, and you know it. So I'm really surprised that this would be some concern here when the people that bought the homes on the single-family streets already knew there were duplexes on this street. And to have an excuse of, you know, well, they're going to have to see more duplexes as they go to their home. If it was an apartment building, I'd get it. I'd understand a quadplex but these are duplexes. And the person that is building them has built quality all over Northwest Arkansas. It boggles the mind to understand why that you can influence the planning and zoning to turn this down because of people driving by will see duplexes. We literally have duplexes and single-family homes all across the city. So this almost seems like there's something else going on as to why this has been turned down.
So, Chris, did you have a comment?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to do a couple of clarifications here. Number one, this item went forward to the Planning Commission with a recommendation to consider. The planning commissioners are each given the same information that was provided here today. And they came up with the determination whether or not to recommend approval or denial. And I'm aware of the letter that was provided by the applicant that couldn't be here. However, Ben did come to me with this project prior to it coming here, before going to the Planning Commission. That is part of the reason why it did go to the Planning Commission with a recommendation to consider. This is, in Ben's professional opinion, Ben is the only certified AICP in the room. However, this is a very opinionated project. So I think that one thing that we need to consider is that even though it's Ben's professional opinion, you do have the ability to override that, that determination that was done by the Planning Commission. In this case, I don't know if I necessarily agree nor disagree with Ben. I see his point. As the Director of Community Development, I also see where the applicant was confused about some of the recommendations that came forward. However, that information that came from the Planning Commission, that recommendation is from the Planning Commission. The staff's recommendation was a recommendation to consider.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, David.
I will state that I have seen for 30 years the planning department staff have a great deal of influence on the Planning Commission. And many times the Planning Commission votes how the recommendation from planning staff is. And it certainly seems that's the way this was done.
Madam Mayor?
So, yes, Mindy?
Well, I was just going to say, I do agree there are a lot of places in town where there's sort of mixed-use housing, if that's the right word, but a lot of it has been there for a long time. That's one of the things I noticed even as a high schooler when I first moved over here. I came from a place where the homes and neighborhoods were more similar, so you didn't see duplexes and apartments and homes mixed together as much as I saw over here. But it seems like over the last few years, there's been more of a concerted effort to build like-minded neighborhoods, like I think what I'm hearing from Ben, and that's why there's a concern here. I understand, yes, the people that live on the easternmost streets in this area live on single-family streets, and they have to go right past a street with duplexes. I get that, and they understood that when they bought the house. I think I would feel even a little bit different about it if the duplex were right at the end of, across from the street of duplexes, but it's actually across the street from one of the single-family streets, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So, I mean, I understand, I appreciate that this is a local builder who has built quality homes. I'm not questioning that at all, but I also understand where the concerns are coming from, and I appreciate that it does seem like we are making a concerted effort to have neighborhoods with more like structures in them. That's what I understand is happening here, so.
Thank you, Mindy. Alan, you had something?
Mayor, you know, we do have a planning commissioner
Oh,
here.
yes, and I wanted to hear from.
Put
Yes.
Kevin on the spot.
Kevin,
I
would you
would
like
like
to
to hear
come
from
to
you,
the
Kevin. Thank you.
microphone? Whether you would like to or not, will you?
Kevin Williams, 2604 Courtney Circle. Not speaking as a planning commissioner, but speaking as myself, I take a little bit of offense, Director Allen, when you say that we're being influenced and basically saying we're not doing our jobs as
Never
planning
said that.
commissioners.
I never said that in
Okay,
any
but
way.
it's just the way it comes across. Just speaking not as a planning commissioner, just as myself.
It is a fact that the planning staff influences the planning zone, planning commission, and I stated that I've seen this for 30 years. I'm not saying only since you've been on, Kevin.
I understand that. Now, that it's an opinion, and that's fine. What I saw when I looked at this wasn't necessarily anything other than, I don't know who the builder was. I don't make my decisions based on who the builder is. They can build a beautiful all-brick duplex or a siding duplex. That comes later. This is just zoning. And what I saw was 2 lots by themselves, currently zoned for single-family housing. If we change that to duplexes, even though there are duplexes on the one street, we have 2 duplexes. On past that, what if that is then single-family housing? We have 2 duplexes stuck completely surrounded by single-family housing, and that to me just did not flow well as a neighborhood. Now, that was just my opinion as a planning commission member, and that's what I said as a planning commission member, and the planning commission as a whole decided this just wasn't the best idea for rezoning. The board, that's completely up to you guys to overturn that. But the planning commission, we do our homework, we do go look at these things, we review everything. I think it's staff's job to give us recommendations, absolutely, just like it's to give you recommendations. But we still made the decision on our own ideas and the way we looked at things, and that was just what I came up with, not speaking for the planning commission as a whole.
Thank you, sir.
Madam
Mayor,
Mayor.
I've got a
Okay,
question.
so Betsy, and then I'll come to you, David.
Okay. And I understand what Mindy was saying, and it would be nice if everything was the same. But it's not. I mean, along the south end of Copperleaf, all of those single-family homes, those are apartments, apartment buildings. It's not consistent. We've got apartments, single-family homes, duplexes, and then 2 duplexes. Just like the planned development workshop, it's a variety all in the same place. So I'm not understanding why it's okay in some areas like planned development, and this area already has duplexes and apartments, but it's not okay here. It just doesn't make sense to me.
David?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Based upon what Ben had said, and then Kevin followed it up with the question of, these are 2 duplexes built. What if single-family homes are built further down? The question is, Copperleaf has been here for many, many years, and there has been no development on the north side of Copperleaf whatsoever. None. No plans to build single-family homes. And now this person who sent us the email said that he bought these a year ago, planning to build duplexes. And we're going to hold this up again for the hypothetical of what if someone wants to build. We have rezoned R2 to R4, all these different things all over town, right next to other properties everywhere, upon the basis of staff recommendation. We just had the R4 brought to us, and I voted yes to give it a second rundown for the second reading so that we can have some more information. It's not that I wish to see another R4 apartment complex put down through there, quadplex, whatever it is, but I do value the opinion of someone who lives, as this gentleman spoke, of the light pollution. Now, if people are going down Copperleaf to get to their single-family home street, and they pass some well-built, nice duplexes, 2 duplexes, not quadplexes, not apartment buildings, you have to remember, someone could have bought this whole piece of land and come in and wanted to put R4 quadplexes or apartment buildings. That's been done. It was done at the end of Holly and Corder Road because staff wanted us to do it. So I don't understand how the comparison of the last ordinance we voted, it being so close to this that we are worried that people will see duplexes. Ryan started Copperleaf to be a duplex neighborhood. And as Mr. Mayberry wrote, he did a great job. His duplexes look fantastic. They add to the neighborhood. I'm just a little surprised. Here's the question I do have. Did anyone complain, anybody in the neighborhood complain about this at the planning and zoning?
Ben, can you answer that question for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, yeah, we did not have any public comment.
None.
So
Okay.
no public comment from any neighbors about these 2 duplexes, this land being rezoned for these 2 duplexes. And if it was that serious of a problem and something that neighbors were really concerned about, I would have thought they would show up. Apparently, it's not as important to the people who actually live here as it is to staff. I have been intimately involved in seeing this entire neighborhood grow from the first time they dug the street. Because the first thing they did was call it East Villaview Drive. I'm intimately friends with the people who own the property to the north. I've heard nothing from them. So I just don't understand in that duplexes are not the same as apartment buildings or quadplexes. And it doesn't seem like this should be as big of a question as it is. And again, I voted on the last one to allow it to go to the second reading, and this is the same thing. If there's something different between now and the second meeting, then I may change my vote. But I'm going to vote yes on this to allow it to go to a second reading.
Okay, so
Madam
we
Mayor?
are, yes,
We asked for
sir.
public input.
Can I wrap this up?
You may.
I wanted to make a comment too. I'll wait for after you go,
No,
Brad.
by
No.
all means,
Okay,
please.
I'm going to ask that if it's a comment concerning rezoning, because that's all we're doing. We're looking at rezoning.
Right.
So I would like to ask that comments from this point forward are to do with rezoning, okay? So first, Alan, you have something you want to say?
I just want the board to understand, staff did not recommend denial, period. It's in the record. We did not recommend denial.
Got it. Okay, so Mindy?
No, I just
is
want
it-
to know if we've had public input time yet on this.
We have not.
Okay.
So my rezoning comment is, so on the previous one, the land has a consideration on if we rezone it to a certain thing. And Brad pointed it out eloquently, not compared to how I was saying it, what the issues were. And so this one, we don't have the land issues, the landscape and issues over here. And so I guess my consideration for yes is because we do have them mixed use all over our community. And this I don't see the potential of harming our neighbors where I see the potential of harming our neighbors on the other land.
Okay, thank you. So, before, yes, sir, before.
Rezoning.
Rezoning, yes. So before we move to anything else, we do have to open the floor for public comment. Alan?
Just another thing, I don't know, and I didn't bring it to the board's attention. When we go through the slides, if you notice, what I've asked staff to stop doing is making recommendations to the board. If you notice the last few board meetings, or at least the last two, we put in it meets requirements. Because I think a lot of times, I told staff, I think that confuses board because it sounds like we're recommending. So after having meetings with staff, you will see in our comments now, it says it meets requirements. Going forward, you shouldn't see anything that says we're making a recommendation. Because again, I told staff, to me, when you do that to the board, you're telling them, hey, we want this. And our job's to make sure it meets the requirements. It meets the zoning, and that's what we're trying to do. So I don't think I clarified that. So when you see in this slide, it said Planning Commission is the denial, or if you can find it down there. But again, it just says it meets the requirements. I'm pretty sure. I think that's what.
What did we hear at the podium earlier?
Sir?
What did we hear Ben say earlier, that he recommended denial? Was that only to the planning and zoning? It still was said at the podium, right?
I don't recall, Ben, what you said.
Well, that's,
Madam Mayor,
One more
are we
slide
going
over.
to stay on rezoning, or can I give
Yeah.
input, or what?
We haven't opened the floor to the public. So,
he should get to
do
go.
you
able to
need
say
to say something on rezoning?
I would like to.
You go right ahead.
All right, so behind these two lots, I'm curious, I'm showing on my records in my walkabout, there's 2 acres, there's a significant development of a very large home, right? So it goes right behind these properties, it shows 2 acres. The folks' taxes are out of El Dorado. I'm curious if they're building a home, it's not occupied yet, and if they're gonna live there, can staff contact them, or is that something I need to do? Second, the concern is I'm sorry, I'm using a different map. So, and the other deal at the end of the drive is there's 99.1 acres, which is what we're concerned about as we're looking north down East Villaview in future development. That is owned by, was purchased last year. So it's on public record. None of us know how that is going to be developed. I can only imagine it's going to be upper to middle class development. So that's the 2 influences off that when I look at rezoning, just what the land is around it. But I will do between now and the second reading, I will find out from the developer behind there what their thoughts and impact would be on their property. Thank you.
Thank you. So I am going to open the floor to public input. Is there anyone here that would like to address this ordinance, 2505? If you'll state your name and address and speak into the microphone, you have 3 minutes.
Absolutely. My name is Sean Hudson. I live at 1897 Midland Knoll Court. I've lived there going on close to 5 years now. When I moved into the area, I really was drawn to the neighborhood because of it's a dead end. There's nothing happening in there other than that first street of duplexes. Something I've really noticed since this has come up is that first street, when you look down at every home, almost every home has extra cars parked in the street. That's something you see at a lot of duplexes. Kind of just the nature of it. But in our neighborhood, that across the street, almost directly across the street, they're almost always parked on that curb as well. So that will mean that that main drive will be double parked all the time again. We've experienced that a lot here lately with construction of that new home that's directly behind it. It is not a pleasant experience to try to come up that road with only one lane available to you, especially when a lot of traffic, whether that be school buses or, you know, whoever. And the concern of if that one does get approved, is it going to be duplexes the rest of the way down the street? And double down on that to where it's going to be double parked the whole way down that street. You know, I kind of moved here from Garfield, country living. I've found a lot of desire in that house because it was backed up to a large farm, kind of secluded from everything. So it's kind of how I feel about the duplexes there. Or the potential, sorry, the potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Is there anyone else? If not, I will come back to, yes. Yes, sir.
My wife and I and several other neighbors have been the policing of trash on Copperleaf as you go from the duplex area to the end of it. The majority of trash that we pick up on the east side comes from those duplexes. The trash blows, and it's a different kind of tenant than the single-family homeowners. I know that what that sounds like, but it's a fact because we're out there picking up 30-gallon bags after the trash truck comes through. Furthermore, we have watched for 11 years that entire east side, you're talking about land use, is a swamp. And I don't know how it would ever perk out. I don't mean how many truckloads you bring in. There's a spring at the end of that that's right adjacent to Esther Jane's land. We knew Esther Jane. And we said, why did you never do something with that? She said, it is always water. The cows, no matter what happens. So you want to talk about abatement before you go. And for the record, when we move to filling up Esther Jane's property with other things, I'll be here again, Lord willing, because the water abatement from Esther Jane's property has got a 7% grade into my backyard. And it's never been fixed. My insurance company has threatened to drop me. I could stock my backyard with trout with the water runoff from Esther Jane. But that's another story. This particular piece of property, you say duplex is down to the end of the street. I want to see the perk test when that happens. Don Emanuel, I'm out of here.
Sir?
Thank you.
Sir, if I may ask you a quick question. Did I hear you say the trash is worse after the trash runs?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'll look into that.
Because the tenants overload their trucks, and when you have 3 and 4 people, families in a duplex, they're making more trash for the single barrel that's there. And an old man who's 82 years old and me, we're the guys that are picking up the trash because we're embarrassed for our neighborhood.
Thank you.
Put you on the payroll.
Directors, any other questions or comments about rezoning? There is not. Do I have a motion to place ordinance 25-05 on its first reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt,
No.
Frisler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Burns,
No.
Wiles,
Yes.
Motion is approved by a 4-2 vote. Yes.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
That requires a two-thirds of the entire board, and we also need to revisit the last ordinance because we also had we only had 4 yeses
had
on that
4
one
yeses.
also. So
Yes, sir.
Point
Okay.
of order. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate you always pointing that out. So,
Can you repeat that? It has to have 5 votes?
has to have 5 votes.
That is not true. You have to have 4 votes unless you read the entire thing.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
The motion is to suspend the rules. Suspension of the rules requires a two-thirds vote of the entire board, which is 5.
And we have had this very thing come up before, and when there was not enough votes, the option was to read the ordinance.
That's
That is
correct.
And we can read the ordinance. That's right.
My objection, Madam Mayor, was it was not a two-thirds vote.
Exactly. So my,
But that
Part of the
objection has
motion-
not come up before, so.
the idea of suspending the rules, reading by title only, comes into place whenever it's only a two-thirds vote required. We have to read the whole thing. Okay? So, as this vote stands right now, we will be reading the entire ordinance. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So, I would ask if there's any change of vote. If there is not, then we will,
Madam Mayor?
yes.
I'm gonna spare him as I gather information, but for the record, you have swayed me. But history has shown I did have David Cameron read a full one at his parting gift.
Yes.
You've been spared, Director, or Administrator.
Thank you, sir.
So we now have a 5-2 vote.
And I have done the same thing as he
Yes.
did to
Yes.
keep him from having to read it.
Yes.
I've changed my vote before.
And so.
This is for the last one.
This is for ordinance 2505. We are going to have to readdress 2504 also, but we're going to
But
complete
it's a
this one first.
5-1 vote because Reed didn't.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
a vote can be changed there too, or we will have to read it.
Yes, that is right. So Brad has changed his vote on ordinance 2505. We now have a 5-2 vote to approve. You would simply read title. So if you go ahead and do that, then we're going to revisit the
Ordinance number
2504.
Ordinance number 25-05, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from R2 to R3, property located at 339 and 349 East Copperleaf Drive, and amending the future land use map of the Siloam Springs 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, sir. So we will go back to ordinance 25-04. We have read by title only. However, we will need to read the entire thing unless I have one of the no votes changed to yes.
And we have the vote
Yes.
count.
We can. We
Given
can
to
just
us.
revote.
Pardon?
We'll just do a new roll call.
No, I thought we were going to read the previous vote. Can you give us the previous vote?
Oh, who voted yes and who voted no for the one we just finished or the,
No,
the one right
The
now,
one we're
2504?
going back to fix.
Okay. Would you read the,
We had a no vote from Blair, a no vote from Burns, yes from Wiles, yes from Hunt, no from Rissler, yes from Allen, yes from Carroll.
And so you need a no vote to switch.
We need a yes vote. One yes vote
instead of a
switched.
no, be a yes?
No to yes.
Yes.
A no to yes.
Yep.
Just for the reading, or does that?
That's right. We're not adopting it, but for us not to have to read the whole entire ordinance.
I'll do, you owe me. Let me tell you.
So Director
Y'all
Rissler
owe
now
me.
is a yes.
Thank you, Lisa.
We had dinner.
So, we've already read the title. We have now have 5 yes, 2 no. Thank you, Jay. Keep us out of trouble.
Mayor, do I need to read the ordinance again?
No, sir. You've already read it. Not unless you just want to.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Next is ordinance 25-06, first reading, amending Section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R2 to R3 and R4, the 1300 block of North Britt Street. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1. This is a rezoning request located at the 1300 block of North Britt Street. The applicant is requesting to rezone the proposed Lot 6R and Lot 7 of the James West Kelchner subdivision, consisting of a total of 0.47 acres, from R2 residential medium to R3 residential two-family. The applicant is also requesting to rezone the proposed Lot 5R, consisting of 0.32 acres, from R2 residential medium to R4 residential multifamily. This is the future land use map for the properties. The future land use map shows this area as Neighborhoods 2. The Neighborhoods 2 designation describes duplex and triplex uses as very appropriate, as you can see over there on the screen. This is the associated lot line adjustment survey for the property. The applicant is proposing to rezone the two southern lots, that's that Lot 6R and Lot 7 there, to R3 in order to allow for the construction of two duplex structures. So that's a total of 4 dwelling units, 2 duplexes on each of those, or 1 duplex per lot for those two. The applicant is also proposing to rezone the northern Lot 5R to R4 in order to allow for 1 triplex structure to be constructed. The lots are sized appropriately for duplex and triplex uses. As previously stated, the proposal is consistent with the Neighborhoods 2 future land use designation for the property, and there are similar uses existing within the neighborhood, both to the east and south of the site. It should also be noted, opaque screening will be required along the west property boundary abutting the single-family residential house with future development of these lots. Staff has received 1 call of questioning nature on this request and no correspondence. And after review, staff finds that the proposed zoning to R3 and R4 is consistent with the future land use designation for the property and is compatible with the existing neighborhood context and character, and the Planning Commission recommended approval as well. And staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Directors, comments or questions? There being none, then I would ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 25-06. There is not, so I will come back to the board for a motion. This will be the same case as the last 2 ordinances. If we're going to suspend the rules and reading by title only, it will require 5 affirmative votes. So I will ask if there is a motion to place ordinance 25-06 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Rissler?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Allen?
Ordinance number 25-06, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from R2 to R3 and R4, property located at 1300 block North Britt Street.
Thank you, sir. We will now move to our resolutions. We have already addressed Resolution 0125. We'll move on to Resolution 05-25, significant development permit for the 2200 block of Highway 16, Siloam Springs Community Gardens. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a significant development request located at the 2200 block of Highway 16. The applicant is requesting to construct the Siloam Community Gardens multifamily dwelling complex consisting of a total of 152 dwelling units with associated amenities situated on 20.57 acres. This request is associated with an easement vacation request that is anticipated to be heard at the February 18th Board of Directors meeting. This is the site plan for the development. The proposal is consistent with the PD zoning standards and concept that was previously approved in August of 2024. As you can see, this proposal includes the street extension of Quarter Road to Waukesha Road, as previously discussed with that PD rezoning. Sidewalks will be provided along both Highway 16 and Quarter Road, as well as interior to the development to allow for better pedestrian mobility. And then I think I have another slide for the landscape plan. Yeah, I do. Okay. This is the landscape plan for the development. The applicant's providing sufficient parking throughout the complex with guest parking spaces included. The proposal also includes amenities such as a walking trail, which loops around the entirety of the development, as well as a playground area and a clubhouse and community garden areas that are kind of in the corners of the development. Additionally, the applicant's providing sufficient landscaping throughout the development with a 10-foot landscape buffer provided along all property boundaries. And staff has received one call of questioning nature and one letter from a neighbor on this request. And after review, staff finds that the proposed significant development as presented appears to meet all the requirements set forth, subject to the conditions stated in the staff report provided. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this request. Staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I have a question because this is my ward, so I met with the developer last April. He said something about the city can request reimbursements through the federal government Inflation Reduction Act, and the builder can donate money back. What does that mean? What is that about? I assume because it's like affordable housing, government subsidized or something?
Director, did he give you a reference or anything that we could check? Because that's nothing.
I mean, I'm reading what, he said there were reimbursements the city can request through the federal government Inflation Reduction Act to get money back. And the builder can donate money back to the city.
Be happy to get into that, but that's not something that I know Chris, it doesn't look like Chris or Kevin either.
Chris, do you have any information about that?
So this was originally in the narrative for the PD. That was language that was written into the plan development prior to coming to the original Planning Commission, and staff had them strike that language from the PD. It does not exist within our code requirements, so it's not something that we would enforce. So I can look more into it, but it's not something that we would attach to a zoning.
What strike what language? I didn't know what you were talking about.
I'll let Megan has additional information.
There was a brief sentence in the narrative when we were reviewing it at Tech Review that mentioned that, but at that time, we had told them any contracts or anything like that needed to be through the city administrator's office, and that they needed to coordinate that with the city administrator if that's something they wanted to pursue, and that did not need to be part of the rezoning request, as we weren't considering finances as part of our rezoning review. So they did strike that from the PD narrative, and they were instructed to go to the city administrator's office if they would like to discuss anything like that.
No one came to my office that I remember.
Okay, so they struck the part where the city could request money back through the federal government, and the builder can donate money back?
It was odd that was in the narrative of a rezoning. What we're looking for is land use specific, and you can have development standards within that. Federal funding, different contractual agreements, if it gets written into that language, it's not appropriate to be in that language because it's attached to the zoning. So they did have some similar language to that, and we can look into that more. To try to figure out exactly what specifically it is regarding. However, it's not appropriate during the rezone process, and it's not appropriate when we're talking about a land use consideration for zoning.
Okay, because
If I get money back for the city, I'd be happy to look into it.
I was going to say, I assume, because this is government subsidized apartments, right? Or units coming up, or
And
affordable or whatever.
when we're talking about land use and development, we do not talk about whether or not it's subsidized or not subsidized. Those are different types of fair housing type questions that staff tries to stay away from. We do not, from staff standpoint, we don't engage in that type of conversation because those can get you in issues regarding fair housing issues.
I was just trying to relate why we would get money back or why the developer would give us money.
And we can look into that further.
Yeah, our council looked something up. It looks like it's more for energy credits on this inflation, so I'll look a little more. I'm not sure they would have any energy credits to get that, but that's just briefly looking at this, so let me do a little research.
And I just want to say that's part of the reason we had them strike that from the narrative, because it was very confusing to staff too, as to why that was mentioned in there. And we weren't really sure what that was saying, or if they were anticipating that we would be responsible for the street construction, but we didn't. We just had that stricken from the narrative altogether before we approved that.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, just to, oh,
No, Mindy, and then I'll come to you,
Please,
Brad.
Mindy.
well, quick question. We did have a letter from residents in the development across 16 about working to decrease the speed limit there. I know there, that area is getting pretty crowded, and we've talked about the need for sidewalks along there. I think we are slowly developing sidewalks that would go all the way to 412. But is that even an issue that we could handle? I mean, is that a highway department issue, Highway 16, and decreasing speed limit?
Madam Mayor, Kevin
Yes,
Moore,
Kevin.
Public Works. That is a state highway, and so the proper course to go through is to request that they study and redefine the speed limit. That request has already been put forward as part of the Kenwood project because Garver flagged that at that intersection of Kenwood and Highway 16, that the speeds through that area were too high. So that's already being considered.
Thank you. I just want to make sure we were addressing their concern. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Brad.
I would just, under condition and staff's conclusions, and I'll get on my soapbox again about drainage, but underneath that, number 5, the developer shall provide an updated drainage analysis accommodating all site flows through the development prior to construction. And so as I saw this, and I know we're out there, but just be aware, there are numerous retention features on that site. So, that will come up again. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 05-25? There being none, directors, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 05-25 with conditions?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen.
No.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
No.
Burns.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes. Motion is approved by a 5-2 vote. Next, Resolution 06-25, Significant Development Permit, 3861 Highway 412 East, Chili's. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a significant development request located at 3861 Highway 412 East. The applicant is requesting to construct a 5,161 square foot Chili's restaurant on Lot 1 of the Siloam Station Retail Edition. This is the site plan for the development. The proposal is consistent with the C2 zoning for the property. The applicant is providing driveway access onto the private street, Siloam Station Drive, and will not have access directly onto Highway 412. An access easement is provided to the east of the lot to allow for cross-access between the frontage developments of this subdivision. The proposal is providing ample parking and meets all parking area design requirements. A sidewalk is proposed to be constructed along Highway 412 with a crosswalk shown to the south of the proposed structure to allow for better pedestrian mobility. And staff has not received any calls or correspondence on this request. And after review, staff finds that the proposed significant development as presented appears to meet all requirements as set forth, subject to the conditions stated in the staff report provided. And the Planning Commission has recommended approval of this request. And staff's available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Directors, comments or questions for Megan? There is none, so is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 06-25? There is not. Directors, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 06-25?
So moved.
With
Second.
conditions. Get that in the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved by a 7-0 vote. So with that, we will move into our administrator's report. Alan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to report some expenditures to the board. The first one was $54,203.93. Sourcewell Shade Structures, Family Aquatic Center, Park and Rec. The second is $47,909, Class 2 CCA ET oil base wood poles for electrical department. The third is $40,700, 2025 Chevy Silverado regular cab truck, Chevrolet of Fayetteville Street Department. And the last one's $45,525, annual physicals, life scan, wellness centers for the fire department. A few things to report. The total cost of treating and clearing roads during a recent snowstorm was $50,577.69. That includes 288.5 hours of labor, 110 tons of salt mixture, 62 tons of sand, and a significant amount of fuel and replacement blades. The first public input meeting for the Unified Development Code has been scheduled for February 20th at the Siloam Springs Public Library from 4 to 6. And hopefully in the next day or two, the board will get a copy of the Unified Code to start looking through there. And just a little update on the board. I don't know if I've shared this with you before. When you're doing, we did some research on the Unified Code, and when you're doing that, that usually is sent off to a firm of 4 to 5, which is a cost between $750 to $1 million. We decided to do that in-house, and we did it well under 18 months. I know it's been a long process, but I appreciate the staff we have, because I sat in those meetings, and they were rough some days. But thank you, staff, that, and again, ways we try to save money and help the city, but they did a really good job. So hopefully you'll get that, make notes on it, and we'll have meetings and different things like that, and take a look at your suggestions. High school art students have sent a concept drawing for paintings, for painting transformers, and their contribution to beautifying our community. Once I get those renderings, I will show them to the board, and that's something high school is wanting to do. Kind of excited about that. I know you guys these TVs have gotten really old. Hopefully in the next couple days, by at least the next board meeting, both the TV behind Director Allen and behind Director Hunt will be replaced. They will be a few inches bigger, so these are getting a lot out of date, and they're starting to fade a little bit. So we'll get that updated for you. Just want to do a big shout out to, we took a pretty large group yesterday, really honored for the awards. And I tell you what, we are well represented from, Senator Dees and our representative, Randy Torres and Robin Lunsford. They rolled out the red carpet for us. I mean, we were recognized on the Senate floor and the House floor. Just want a big shout out, because they really, the governor even came out and took a picture at their request. They really went the extra mile to make sure our citizens and volunteers were. I got to hold $610,000 in cash, but they would not let me keep any of it. The guy kept watching me very closely. So, and if you don't mind, board, I would like to end my administrator's report, but let Segan give you an update. One of the backgrounds and one of the loves, like Travis was doing his presentation tonight, and we're always trying to find revenue streams. Well, when I stole Segan and got her here, I'm excited she's here. She has a very complex background, and I want her to go over that. One of the big things that I see for our future is to generate revenue. Where I came from, softball tournaments, pickleball wasn't a big thing, but it's one of the fastest growing sports in the country right now, softball tournaments. We would generate millions of dollars in revenue. Northwest Arkansas. So Segan, you just kind of give an update, let them know what you're doing with tourism and things I've asked you to do.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor, Board, hello. Segan Morrow, Administration Admin 2. So I have been tasked with creating a 5-year strategic plan for tourism in Siloam and what that looks like. As you may or may not know, I did come from tourism in a neighboring city. I understand that it is much larger than Siloam. However, coming directly from sports tourism, just within the last year being the sole sports sales manager, I brought in about 200 tournaments for the city. About 75% of those were baseball, softball tournaments, and those generated around almost $3 million in economic impact revenue. So it did bring in several new hotels to that city, as well as restaurants. So as a piece of my 5-year strategic plan, I will be working with Parks and Rec in building the sports tourism aspect of that, and that will coincide with what they're building on their master plan. So just so that you know, hopefully more of that is to come, and I will be bringing that strategic plan for.
And you moved to Siloam Springs?
I was born and raised here.
Oh, okay.
This is my home, so.
We brought it back home.
So lucky you guys, you brought me back home.
Well, what you said earlier, Director, kind of triggered it in my head, things that we've been working on the last year and a half, trying to generate other than electric. And we got to remember, if we put this money in and we do it the right way, we can generate the revenue and make it back. People drive by us all the time from Tulsa, back and forth softball tournaments. Director Burns can tell you with the dance and swim meets, the things that we're missing out here. If we can get these facilities and partnering with the high school, we could generate revenue on top of our energy study and different things. I'm excited what the future holds and just what Segan's brought to our team. I'm really excited about it.
Thank
you, Segan.
Thank you, Segan. So, is that end
That's
of
all
your
I have,
report,
Mayor.
sir?
I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So before I go to the directors, I just want to echo your thanks to Senator Dees and to Representative Torres. They they rolled out the red carpet for the city of Siloam Springs. And, you know, this is their home. They're very proud of us. And I am very proud of our city and its citizens and our staff. The 4 awards that we received as a city were amazing, and they were things that really impact our citizens, and they impact this whole area. So I say thank you to them. Thank you for everyone that was there. It was really great and very gratifying. We appreciate them. They represent us well. So thank you for that. So with that, I will go to the directors for your report. Questions, anything that you're going to say? Just remember, please, give Alan some direction on the sale of the airport, whether you would like for him to bring you more information or not at all.
What are you talking about?
He has been, I'm sorry, you weren't here for the workshop. Alan has been
Over that real
approached.
quick, Mayor.
Yeah, so you go ahead.
Director, what I did is I kind of just food for thought during our workshop. I've been approached several times by email and approached staff. I think his name is Brad Payne. He's just asked to purchase, or his company to purchase, our airport. I just didn't want to say, no, they're not interested. I wanted to give the respect to the board, at least bring that to the board to say, are you even interested in me entertaining that? Or is that a big no from the board? But I owe it to him to at least talk to the board and get direction from you. So
Thank you, sir.
that's where I'm at.
So Mindy, we will begin with you. David, end with you.
Okay, airport sale, not in favor of it myself, and I did get some input from someone who happens to be at the airport quite a bit. Wasn't really in favor of the idea either, so that's my 2 cents. Main thing I want to do is just thank the veterans for coming tonight and sharing just kind of a different perspective on fireworks, both the sale of and shooting them off. A different perspective than what we hear, and you know what we hear. So thank you, and thank you for staying. You deserve extra kudos for that. Thank you.
And I would just add to that, thank you all, as she said, for being here, and we look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks, because that will be an agenda item for us, so thanks, guys. Ken?
As far as the airport, I would be curious to see a little bit more of the details, so that's just me.
Again, if I entertain that, that's not saying yes, it's just to see in the talks. I have no idea what they would offer or anything, so thank you.
I also just quickly want to say the trip to Little Rock was amazing. It, even if you're not into politics, we had a blast. I mean, it was just fun. It was informative. It was well worth the trip and the time. And yes, we're well represented by our legislators, and thank you both for everything you did yesterday to make us feel at home. It was incredible. You know, money aside, it was incredible. And I guess that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Betsy?
I would have to go with no on the sale of the airport. I think land is more valuable than gold, and we're going to need more over time. Like we've talked about, whether it's police or fire or just expanding. And yeah, unless they wanted to offer us enough to go buy that much more. Thank you. The community building, it's going to be cold early to middle of next week. And I know we've talked about the possibility, could the community building be used for people who need it? Where are we on that?
Director Blair, if you don't, I'm sorry, I meant to have Chief give you an update earlier, but with everything going on, it passed over me. So Chief, you wouldn't mind just giving them an update? What I did is when you were asking me that, was right before I went out of town. I had the fire marshal and the fire department go look at that and the issues and different things like that. So if you'd give us an update.
Yeah, absolutely. So we took a look at the building, and there's concerns and things that we would have to plan for and really line out. But one of the things is when that gets used as a sleeping area, or they're going to stay overnight, then you have to look at the use of that building. So currently it's an assembly use. That would have to change to an R use, which would actually be an R1, which would then kick into the requirements of fire sprinkler system, fire alarm system. The exit lights are there, but you would have to have emergency backup power for if the power went out, that those would
There's no
still
sprinkler
remain.
system, though, that would have to be installed.
Yes, yeah, because it's not currently. So those of course are very big ticket items for putting in a building. So, but that's what we came up with. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done, but it would be quite costly. But the cooking inside the building, that gets to a commercial cooking issue if you're going to be cooking in there, which then it would be required to have a commercial kitchen hood and suppression in that hood as well. So several issues.
The group met so at the chamber the other day, the group that did the tent, they said they met last Friday, and they're going to meet again this Saturday, and they think they found a resolution. And so, and when I find out I find out tomorrow where the meeting's going to be and when, I'll send an email that Alan can send to all the directors.
We've been working behind the scenes trying to get the churches more involved. That's what we've done before. Where I came from, where we did this, and I don't know if I told you, all of you, we had a Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club, a lot of different organizations that were there. We don't have a lot of that, but we really depended on our churches, and what our churches did, say we have 4 different churches right here, we would get together, pool our resources together. In the first one, if we have an event, it would be Mindy's, and then after that, we'd pool our resources, and it would go to Ken, and so on and so on. Where not everybody was hit all year long. If we had one event, well, he would have the first one next year, and so on and so on. So I think these are some of the things that they're discussing, but I won't know more until Director Risser lets me know.
And also, if I can add this too, because I've been speaking with the lady that was running that.
Cruz? Carla Cruz?
And so we were
That's who I meet with
we were
tomorrow.
texting back and forth over the weekend, and she was looking for different options, because really the problem was the open flame, right, heating devices inside the tent. That was the biggest concern. So we were able to locate or find them a couple different options. That was, there was one option that we found was $100. That was a forced air heater that they could set outside of the tent and pipe that heat into the tent, which was much safer. And then there was another one that they could use off of a generator, because they had a generator out there. They could plug it in. It was only $120 or something like that. So very, a lot more cost friendly than the couple $1,000s for the big event tent heaters that they sell, but, so we were able to find them some different options for this upcoming event as well, so.
Thank you for doing that. And
Absolutely.
I know Camp Siloam was one thought, but I don't know if it went anywhere.
Well, they found, I'm excited to hear, I won't know till tomorrow till we meet, but they've been still meeting, and they think they took their list and found a solution for everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's good stuff. And if you find anything out and you need anything from me,
Yeah, I'll let you know.
just let me know.
I'll let everybody know. I'll share it with Alan.
And the last thing, a citizen reached out, and and it was talked about, when the wind blows, things are a mess, and plastic bags. A lot of states have actually banned the use of single-use plastic bags, except for like a newspaper or prescriptions or things like that. And they ask if we would look at doing that as a town. They do create a lot of mess in landfill, and other states, I used to live in Colorado, and so I'd been using reusable bags forever, but that's something she would like us to look at. Some places give a discount of 10, 25 cents off if you bring your own bags, maybe encouraging things like that.
There's one hurdle possibly. I'm trying to locate the law on that. I think at one time, the state of Arkansas didn't allow that, but I need to check. I don't know 100%. So we're looking, and I got Jason checking into that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Lisa?
No to the sale of the airport. I think we have a gym there that it's a valuable gym that I don't think we can replace. And so I want to say thank you to the VFW members for coming to our meeting and providing input. It is very valuable. But more importantly, thank you for your service, and thank you for what you did for our community. There are times that we've had veterans in our community call me with issues, and I'm able to call you, and you guys take care of it. And so that says a lot about how you take care of our community, and I appreciate it. Thank you. The Parks and Recs that we spoke about tonight, I'm not against or for. I just want to keep in mind what costs we are looking forward to in the future. I named wastewater, PD, but we're also looking that we want to do a recycling our trash into energy. There's a lot of money that we're looking at spending in the near future. And so I'm not against the Parks and Rec. I don't want people to think I'm against Parks and Recs, and I know that they can also bring money in, but having the money to spend on the front end. I'm a very much a focus on needs and wants, and I will do my research. I just want to make sure we have all the information in front of us to make an informed decision. And so I didn't want anybody to think I was against the Parks and Rec. What can we do about the parking at East Copperleaf Drive? Obviously, it's an issue. Can we do a no parking over there on one side of the street? What can we do to resolve the parking issues that are obviously over there?
I'll address that with Chief, see what we can do. What kind of parking issues are you seeing, Director?
Well, it was commented on a couple of times tonight how you can't even hardly get through.
Outside that.
And what I worry about is, I've seen many times when I went down a street, and we've discussed this before, is they're parking on both sides of the street. If I'm on the end of that street, I want the fire truck to reach me. And so that's important to me, that we look at those streets that are being parked on, that are preventing.
We'll check into that.
Okay. And I think it's not just that Copperleaf. I think it's those side streets that they're parking on both sides. And I just want to say thank you to Tyler Dees and Representative Torres. Aubrey's always like, it's just Randy and Tyler, and she sees them as, but they do an amazing job, and they did roll out the red carpet. And I've had tours at the Capitol, but never a tour like that, and it was amazing. And so I can't say thank you enough. And we got to see Robin Lundstrom and Penzo. I don't want to leave him out because Clint Penzo and so many of the others, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
That it?
I'm done. I'm
All
sorry.
And I don't know if anybody said it, and a big shout out to Life, the New Life Church too, providing the bus and
Absolutely,
things
for
like
the
that.
bus. I shoulda
That made
did
that
that.
possible. Thanks to, Director Burns too, and called him. He had the idea, hey, get these people involved, and that's what we did. So it's a team effort. But a big shout out to them to make that possible. And I haven't got a gas bill or anything. That they were amazing to do that for us, spent the day with
Yeah,
us.
thank you for doing that. And Brad, that was a great idea. We are always being recognized as leaders for things, and we always get to stand in the limelight and see that. But to invite the people that actually did the work, and I want to give Director Burns, because it was his idea, and I appreciate that, because everybody that went, they valued that trip. So thank you for coming up with that. I'm done.
You're done. Are you sure? Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the opportunity to make that trip to the Capitol. It's a memory that will be held for many years. One of the things that I saw there, as far as the state of Arkansas, when we were in both the House and when we were over in the Senate, one of the things that I noticed is what I didn't see. I didn't see colors when I was there. I saw cooperation, I saw collaboration. And I don't admit to being able to see everything, but I saw a group of people that were willing to work together. And I was very proud of not only the city of Siloam Springs, but I was also very proud to be an Arkansan and to see how our capital works, how they work together. That to me was impressive, but nobody knew that's what I was looking for, so nobody was putting on any airs. They were just doing what they normally do, and that was quite good to see. And I was very proud of the city of Siloam Springs and those that were represented. I will have to say, I am a Kiwanian, but I think the Rotary Club represented better than the Kiwanis Club, so I'm going to give a shout out to the Kiwanis people that we're in trouble. We're going to need to step it up a little bit because the Rotarians did quite well. But I'm still proud of being a Kiwanian. Maybe I'm still one. They may vote me out tomorrow, but Senator Dees and Representative Torres were very kind to us. It was good to see, and I appreciate the gestures they made as far as providing lunch for us and taking the time. And I know as soon as they finished with us, they were rushing off to the next meeting. So thank you for that. Concerning the airport, I would like to withhold a sale until after we find out where Interstate 42 is going to go. Because I think we have a piece of land that's quite valuable, and once we know what direction 42 is going, if we're going north, south, elevated, or whatever it's going to be, I think that will be, if we're looking to make a sale and take that money and invest somewhere else, or if we're just wanting to sell, I think that would be the time to look at it. Yesterday was so warm. I had to see what it was like to sweat again, but I was glad to see it. But it's good to see spring coming forth. My wife has a Lenten rose, and we're seeing the buds come out on that, and that's always a good sign of spring. I'm very glad for it.
What year anniversary was it yesterday, Director? You haven't said it.
I will not tell you, it was my 30th.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Brad?
Madam Mayor, regarding the airport, I'm going to go one step further. I want to expand it. So here's another purchase to look at, which would be Mud Puddle Investments LLC, and then acquire that and then take it all the way to Bill Young Road. And by 2050, you're going to thank me. I'm not sure if I'll remember or if I'll still be on Earth, but it is, that airport is going to be a nugget for this side of the county, and it will open up more opportunity for the next generation. I was unable, I don't have any good ideas for anything. I mentioned an act of kindness, influenced by other kindness. Earth Angels are one of them. and they're directly fed by Feed My Sheep and a bunch of other volunteers. I actually had an obligation when it's clear weather, so Mother Nature took place, but keep in mind, the members that went from the city are representing the community. That's why they went. That's their position. And I thank you guys for taking that time. Let's see, the last two workshops, very productive. They just show the increased needs that we have. And I look forward to working on more challenges. We just have a lot of challenges ahead of us. There are solutions. We may not like them, but there's some right in front of us, and it's going to be interesting how we navigate that as a board and as a community. And then I promised the VFW that if they stayed the whole time, I'd give them some sort of praise. So the praise tonight would be only for the jarheads out there, is that before you go to bed, just say goodnight, Chesty, wherever you are. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Brad. David?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also want to thank Commander Pat Broyles from the DAV and Greg Gass, the commander with the VFW. I know an awful lot of the men that were here tonight. Jordan Farmer, since he was a little tattling, I've known him, and Ron Evans forever. And so I appreciate them showing up to give their input on the fireworks. It was brought to my attention about how much problems the New Year's Eve fireworks causes, and I think that has been the number one goal in bringing it back up, was to discuss whether that can be continued, shooting them in the city limits on New Year's Eve. That has been the main impetus for the emails that I've received, that the board's received. And hopefully will be what we discuss at the next meeting. But I do appreciate the gentleman showing up, because unless you speak up, we don't know. And so this is right here what you fought for, democracy and one voice, one vote. And we appreciate everything you men have done for your country and for us. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Airport sale, no way. No way, Jose. But everything has a price. Everything has a price. If they were going to offer the amount we need for a rec center, it may be worth it.
Won't know unless I ask.
It may be worth it. So, but I agree with the other board members that God ain't making any more land, and we got a good piece out there besides just where the airport is. We've got land surrounding it. We're lucky to have it. And it is a generator of income for the city with fuel and leases for the hangars. So I think we have a good situation. And I believe what Brad said is absolutely right, is we will someday have the XNA on the west side here. And I believe we have had a lot of businesses look to Siloam because of the private hangars that are available and the jets that can fly in. We used to not be able to have jets fly in Siloam, and we used mostly state money, FAA money, that was allocated to the state to do the 80-20 or 90-10 matching grants to be able to extend it. And it's been a big boon for our city to be able to have that, and I think we're wise to hold on to it. But it doesn't hurt to reach out and say, well, how much you offer it, you know? I want to say thank you to all the weather crews of the city employees that got out in the bad weather and made sure our streets were clear before, during, and after the bad weather that really hit us. It is a thankless job, but I do thank them because it is a tough job.
Director Allen?
Yes.
Just on that, thank you for that compliment, or that comment. What I have done, just let the board know, since that night, we've put a weather policy in place to make sure our workers have downtime.
Good.
So I signed out on that, and thank you for bringing that to my attention. And some of those guys, we've been doing it that way for years and
Yeah.
years. We had 12 hours, but we forgot the guys that already worked all day. But there is a weather policy in place that they got to have 10
Well,
hours of separation.
When you have those who volunteer because they want the hours, that's one thing. But you also have to think of the safety of not just them, but those on the road. And so I'm glad you followed up and took care of that.
Yeah, I want to let you know that's in place now.
Thank you. I was going to make sure I wanted to thank Travis. I really appreciate Stanley and Stanley Church and, was it Jennifer Heathcote, for speaking tonight and giving their viewpoint. And I just appreciate the Parks Advisory Board being so strong supporters for the vision of what we have. And we do have a special situation that so many other cities would kill to have with Sager Creek, and we need to do more with it. And I appreciated when Brad got onto the Sager Creek Development or Beautification Committee. I can't remember what you called it, but
Awesome, remember that?
yeah. And it was like, this is where you got to start. And so I don't want us to let that go away. I mean, it really had, they're right. It has been a matter of neglect and other things come up and, but we've got to take care of the biggest asset we got for this city. Don't forget the chamber banquet is a week from tonight, where we honor one of the gentlemen that helped build this city in the 70s and 80s and 90s, is Joe Woolbright, receiving the Pioneer Citizen Award. It's kind of hard to believe because he won't tell you he's old enough to get the Pioneer Citizen Award. But he's been around and a real local legend. And then James Barnett receiving the Outstanding Civic Leadership Award. We need to make sure that people remember the chamber banquet a week from tonight. I believe it is, right? The 11th?
The 11th.
Out at Camp Siloam. I wanted to give my condolences to the family of Don Haxel. Don was a coach, a principal, a school administrator, a business owner, a realtor, and he also was, in my mind, in my book, a local legend that did a lot for our community, and just an overall really good person. And my heart goes out to his family on that. I don't remember. I don't think there's anything else. I'm glad we got to talk about pickleball tonight, I mean, I didn't want us to rush into it last time, and thank goodness we had Allison and Barrowcliff here to give us more input, and so I appreciate that a lot. Yep. Did I say no airport set? No, did I say that? All right.
Unless it's the right price.
Unless it's the right price. Okay.
And I think
Madam Mayor?
Alan wants to say something before you finish up.
Okay.
Just real quick, Jay looked the law up for me, saved me some time. That law about the plastic bags was passed about 5 years ago. I shared that with each of you. You should have it.
Also, David, I think the rest of us are going to go to JBU for the chamber banquet.
Oh, it's going to JBU?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
might not
I
wanna
just
go to
knew
Camp
in
Siloam.
years past, it was
We'll be
Camp
at
Siloam.
JBU. It
has been
So I
there,
didn't
but
know it
yeah.
was back at JBU. Okay,
JBU,
thank you
yes.
for making sure. I'd have shown up out there next week. I really would have been. Where's
Well, and
everybody
it's a
at?
really nice facility, too.
Yeah.
But there would be no food that night.
Thank you for clarifying that. Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.